This is all thanks to Chasing Wind. Su Ran lifted up Xian, glancing at Chasing Wind, who was always holding its head high with an air of vigor after the race ended. Winnie Tilda. Chasing Wind lowered its head, showing some signs of intimacy, and nudged Su Ran's shoulder as if hinting at something. Chasing Wind is inviting you to ride on its back. Su Kun translated Chasing Wind's intentions. Really? Remembering the speed of Chasing Wind just now, Su Ran's eyes lit up. Winnie Tilda. Chasing Wind let its head fall even further, clearly expressing its intentions. Well then, I will give it a try. Holding Xian with one hand, Su Ran used the other to support himself on Chasing Wind's waist, pushing himself off the ground with a leap. Xian's nourishment has endowed him with impressive strength, allowing him to easily mount even a high creature like Chasing Wind. After getting on the horse, Su Ran patted Chasing Wind's neck. Let's go. Meow, let's charge. Xian raised a paw and pointed forward, zealously giving orders like a commander. Chasing Wind let out a neigh and started to run at full speed with Su Ran. Su Kun let out a hearty laugh, a hexagram star array flashing behind him, summoning another horse-type pet beast. He mounted it and followed closely behind Chasing Wind. Su Kun's other horse beast was slightly less powerful than Chasing Wind, but still extremely fast. As long as Chasing Wind didn't use the pulse of wind to reach its limit speed, it could keep up with Chasing Wind's pace. The two horses galloping away attracted many people's attention. Riding on Chasing Wind's back, Su Ran felt an unexpected joy at the moment. A thin layer of green light film enveloped him and Xian, also riding on Chasing Wind's back, shielding them from the wind blowing in their faces at high speed. 2-star skills, Starlight level wind stabilization. Even when enjoying its run, it didn't forget to care for its passengers. Chasing Wind is really, I'm going to cry. Boss Su, how does it feel? Su Kun, riding alongside Su Ran, asked with a smile. Absolutely fantastic. Su Ran nodded vigorously, his face full of joy as if he had gained a new toy. In his previous life, he had never ridden a horse. Now in this life, not only does he get to ride one, but it's an outstanding horse-type pet beast. Satisfying. But Su Ran looked around and a look of confusion crossed his face. Where are we heading? Let me see. As Su Kun looked forward, he was slightly startled. Chasing Wind has subconsciously headed towards my Mount Beast breeding base. The base is still a little over a kilometer away. How about a visit to my base, Boss Su? Su Kun invited with a smile. Sounds good, Su Ran nodded. He had already prepared food for the pet beasts in fosterage in his shop, and the system had about 10 hours left until its next upgrade. You know what they say, since we're here anyway. And after watching the horse race, he indeed had a newfound interest in horse-type pet beasts. As the two were casually chatting, 2 robust horses ran on the ground, and soon, a large base surrounded by tall fences appeared before them. This is my Mount Beast breeding base. Su Kun let out a hearty laugh. Boss Su, let's go, let's get right into it. He patted his horse. The beast understood and suddenly picked up speed. The gates of the breeding base sensed Su Kun's approach from a distance and opened automatically, revealing a glimpse of horse beasts freely wandering inside. Chasing Wind, underneath Su Ran, picked up speed at the same time, and as it passed through the gate, it suddenly let out a neigh. Winnie Tilda. The long and resonating neighs echoed in all directions. Within a moment, horse beasts started appearing from all around. Some had wings growing on their backs, some had a single horn on top of their head. They all had different shapes and attributes, but they coexisted harmoniously. They were originally freely resting and running in this vast horse farm. Now, they were responding to Chasing Wind's call, and they followed behind Su Ran and Su Kun, forming a long row of horses. The horse beasts collectively neighed, and those who were originally idle now sped up their pace, trying to catch up with Chasing Wind and compete with each other. An unusual race had begun. Uncle Su, what is happening? The surprised Su Ran turned to ask Su Kun, who was riding beside him. This is a special event at our horse farm, Su Kun laughed. Chasing Wind is remarkably persistent in speed. It is a born runner. This persistence has influenced the other horses in the farm. Therefore, we have such competitions frequently. Over time, it has become a tradition. The neigh of Chasing Wind just now was to inform others it had won the championship again, and the current run is the other horse beast's way of celebrating. I see, Su Ran looked interested. Meow Tilda. Xian, who was lying in Su Ran's arms, suddenly moved. It seemed to be affected by the atmosphere around it and jumped down from Su Ran's arms. It leaped from the tall back of Chasing Wind to the soft, grassy ground. When it landed, it transformed itself into an electric arc at an astonishing speed, following Chasing Wind with excitement in its eyes. "Haha, little Su, your pet beast is indeed fast." Su Kun was surprised when Xian caught up with Chasing Wind without much effort. "Yes, Xian is indeed pretty fast," Su Ran waved at Xian, smiling, "but it's better for short sprints and is not suited for long-distance running. In this regard, Chasing Wind is really amazing." Chasing Wind ran all the way from the racecourse here, carrying Su Ran and Xian on its back, and doesn't seem to be tired at all to this point. This stamina alone is astonishing. Little Su, what you may not know is that this is not a unique talent of Chasing Wind, but a trait common to all horse beasts. Su Kun shook his head and laughed. The original transcendent beings were ordinary beings that have awakened. Because of this, their appearances mostly relate to ordinary creatures, and they also have some characteristics that they possessed when they were ordinary. A vast majority of horse-type pet beasts have a one-star skill called tenacity. This skill is passively activated, which gives them more endurance than other pet beasts. "I see," Su Ran nodded, feeling that he had learned something new. In the course of their conversation, Xian, who had been energetically competing with Chasing Wind in a sprint, simply jumped back onto the back of Chasing Wind and went into Su Ran's arms, its face showing a hint of exhaustion. After running at full speed for several minutes with electric pursuit, it seemed a bit tired. Su Ran broke into a smile, patting Xian on the head. "Meow tilde, look there." Xian rubbed its head against the palm of Su Ran's hand, then suddenly stretched out one of its claws and pointed it to the side. Su Ran followed Xian's guidance and looked to the side, soon spotting a small black little horse. It was running hard in the same direction as Chasing Wind, but its speed was much slower. By now, the horses in the Mount Beast breeding base had already run more than one round around the entire field. It seemed as if this little horse was already one round behind the main group. This little horse's running action was quite immature. Unlike the other little horses, it hadn't used any skills during its run and looked quite strained. Soon, it was once again overtaken by the main group and became a small black dot at ends of Su Ran's line of sight in the dust. A few minutes later, the other horses had run 3 full laps around the horse farm with Chasing Wind and finally stopped. The spontaneous run to celebrate Chasing Wind's victory had ended. Su Ran, who had just jumped down from Chasing Wind, saw the little horse again. After being overtaken twice, it seemed to have only run 1 lap. But unlike the calm and composed postures of the other horse beasts, the little horse was already soaked in sweat. It returned to its original place with somewhat wobbly steps, eating the food piled beside it in small bites. Occasionally, it glanced at its companions, and there was human-like envy in its eyes. "Ah, it's that one." Following Su Ran's gaze and seeing the small black little horse, Su Kun, who had just gotten off his horse, sighed. "This little guy still is stubborn." Chapter 98-84, The Story of the Little Horse. "Uncle Su, it seems to be different from other horse beasts, doesn't it?" Su Ran pointed at the little black horse quietly feeding itself when he noticed an exhalation from Su Kun, as if there was a special story behind it, and raised a question. "Indeed, it is different." Su Kun nodded slightly. "It seems Boss Su has been noticing it for a while." "I noticed it halfway through." Su Ran nodded. "It seemed not to be using any skills. Is this how it trains itself?" "Speaking of which," something dawned on Su Ran. "According to what you just said, Uncle Su, even if the horse beast doesn't use any other skills, it shouldn't be so exhausted after just a lap with the skill tenacity, right?" "Yes, a normal horse-type pet beast wouldn't be like that." Su Kun walked over, holding the little horse in place, and gently touched the mane that had just grown on its neck. "But what if this little guy is not a transcendent being?" Su Ran blinked. He scrutinized the little horse before him, and then seemed to understand. Because all the other horses were transcendent beings, Su Ran mistakenly thought there were no ordinary horses on the base. The little horse in front of him didn't show any traces of transcendent power fluctuation. It was just an ordinary creature, which was why it had performed so much worse than its peers. "Uncle Su, you also keep ordinary horses on your base." Su Ran laughed sheepishly. "I nearly didn't recognize it." "There has never been any ordinary horse on the base." Su Kun shook his head slightly. "The appearance of this little fellow was accidental." "Accidental?" Su Ran became more surprised. What kind of accident could cause an ordinary horse to appear in a base that breeds horse-type pet beasts? Indeed, it was accidental. Su-kun nodded slightly, looking at the little horse who peacefully accepted his touch, and a complex look appeared in his eyes. It's the offspring of Chasing Wind. Chasing Wind's offspring. The pitch of Su-ran's voice rose a little and visible surprise appeared on his face. Why is the offspring of a transcendent being an ordinary creature? Could its mother be an ordinary horse? Su-ran speculated. No, its mother is also a horse-type pet beast. Su-kun shook his head and pointed at the black unicorn in the distance, who had been watching from afar. That's Black Sky, its mother. Su-ran was even more puzzled. He knew that transcendent beings have a much higher difficulty producing offspring compared to ordinary creatures, but it was baffling for him that two transcendent beings mated, and their offspring turned out to be an ordinary creature. The reproduction of transcendent beings has unique rules, Su-kun spoke softly. If offsprings are from different races, they will inherit the stronger race of the parents and will not produce a new one. If the strength of the two parents is similar, the offspring will randomly inherit one of their races. Under such circumstances, there is also a small chance of an anomaly. That is, the offspring does not inherit either parent's race. This is the case with this one. Su-kun gently patted the little horse's head, stood up and said, even though it can't catch up to its peers since it grew up in the atmosphere of the base, it has developed a competitive nature. Even if it falls several laps behind its peers, it will give its all, running until it is exhausted. Hearing Su-kun's explanation, Su-ran's face couldn't help but reveal a moved expression. So this stubborn little horse had such an extraordinary origin. He couldn't help but approach and tentatively reached out his hand. The little horse glanced at him and the Zeon at his side, not fearfully standing its ground. Doesn't it fear transcendent beings? Su-ran asked. Although it's not a transcendent being, it's the offspring of two transcendent beings. It has a better constitution than ordinary horses and doesn't fear the majesty of transcendent beings. I see, Su-ran gently stroked the mane of the little horse. Does it have a name? Yes, it's called Star. Su-kun smiled slightly. It has a little hobby. On cloudless nights it likes to look at the stars alone in the sky, so I gave it such a name. It sounds nice, Su-ran nodded seriously. Meow tilde. Zeon came beside Star and curiously circled around it. Perhaps because it itself was once an ordinary creature, it had a deeper understanding of the insurmountable gap between ordinary creatures and transcendent beings, which made it respect Star's perseverance even more. Living with several horse-type pet beasts every day, while being unable to truly integrate itself, was probably very painful for this guy. Thinking of this, Zeon couldn't help but stretch out its claw, wanting to pat Star on the back as a form of comfort. Nay. Star didn't understand Zeon's goodwill, and the unfamiliar contact startled it, causing it to spring up from the ground, retreating a few steps cautiously. Meow. Zeon retracted its awkwardly hanging paw, then settled down and scratched the back of its neck with its hind paw to ease the embarrassment. Nay tilde. A long whinny exuding imposing power came from not far away. Chasing Wind seemed to have noticed due to Star's exclamation just now. It and Star's mother, Black Sky, walked over side by side, approaching in front of Star. The family of three huddled together, seemingly discussing something in a low voice. After a moment, Chasing Wind lowered its head and bumped Star with its forehead, easily pushing it in front of Su-ran. Then it stared at Su-ran and made a majestic noise. Chapter 99, 84 The Story of the Little Horse. Xilu tilde. Chasing Wind says, it hopes to entrust Star to you. Su-kun translated Chasing Wind's sentiment without delay, then wore an odd expression. As Chasing Wind's beast master, he knows that though Chasing Wind usually seems indifferent towards the child Star, it has always been observing him covertly. Why would it care so much about Star, just to entrust him to boss little Su now? Su-ran looked just as surprised. Entrust to me, Su-ran blinked. He almost blurted out, how did you know I have an awakening stone? But on second thought, it was probably a coincidence. Perhaps his interactions and the washing and protection process from yesterday had made Chasing Wind see him as a trustworthy person and entrust him with the care of young Star. That's Chasing Wind's idea. If Boss Little Su is willing to, you can take Star with you, Su-kun smiled. From what I just saw, Boss Little Su, you seem to enjoy horse riding a lot. Star has Chasing Wind's lineage, so when he grows up, he will be much stronger than ordinary horses. It's a good choice. Upon hearing Su Kun's words, Su Ran turned to look at Star, who was stepping towards him under the watchful eyes of his parents. Having heard the little one's backstory, he admired him quite a bit, and the awakening stone he had been holding onto could conveniently turn Star into a transcendent being. But whether to proceed with this, he had to observe. Star slightly raised his head. His black eyes, radiating a hint of purple, were like deep gems, calmly looking up at Su Ran, who stood taller than him. Indulging in transcendent blood, it had fairly good intelligence. The man before it was told by his father, might just be able to change its destiny. Destiny, Star doesn't believe in. From the moment it was born, its companions constantly told Star that it was an ordinary creature, different from them, and that was its destiny. Because it didn't believe in fate, it ran with all its might so as to catch up with its companions, to prove that it could eliminate the gap between them. Although it always ended in failure, it never gave up. Now, the father it had always seen as an idol told it that its destiny might be changeable. An impulse rushed up in Star's heart. It wanted to seize this opportunity. Xilu Tilda. Star suddenly let out a series of urgent neighs, as if inviting Su Ran to mount atop its back. You're still young, you may not be able to carry. Looking at the foal that was shorter than himself, Su Ran was subconsciously about to refuse, but he faltered when his eyes met Star's determined gaze. Well, I'll try. He gently mounted atop Star's back. The back of Star wasn't very wide. It looked even weaker compared to its father's. However, it was able to carry Su Ran steadily, without trembling. 1 step, 2 steps. After Su Ran got seated, Star began to move forward step by step, then accelerated, starting to run. Sitting on the back of Star, Su Ran could clearly feel its efforts. After all, it was still an immature foal, but Star was persistent. It was always trying to steady its burdened body. Meow Tilda. Xian slowly straightened up, watching Star carrying its beast master farther and farther, lightly nodding its head as though it was approving. Although Star was hiding from it earlier, the magnanimous Xian decided to forgive him. If the beast master decided to take him, then it would not oppose. Carrying Su Ran, Star began to run faster and faster. It circled the open field and finally stopped back at the starting point. After Su Ran dismounted, Star lifted his head up high like a child that anticipated praise after a performance. Boss Little Su, what do you think? Su Kun asked with a bright smile. Su Ran turned his head and glanced at Xian. From their one-person, one-pet glance, he understood Xian's thoughts. He nodded slowly. So be it, I'll take Star with me. Thank you, Uncle Su. It's just a little horse, no need for formalities. Su Kun's smile deepened. Xilu Tilda. Seeing Star being recognized by Su Ran, a flicker of joy passed in Chasing Wind's eyes. Without telling his beast master, Chasing Wind knew very well that its victory in the championship today was closely tied to yesterday's washing and protection process. Just through washing and protection, he was able to achieve such magical effects. The human in front of them was clearly not a simple one. As if due to a sixth sense, Chasing Wind felt that entrusting its offspring's future to this human was the right choice, similar to how it had previously chosen Beast Master Su Kun. Well then, congratulations Boss Little Su on getting a beloved horse. Su Kun patted Su Ran on the shoulder. Let's have lunch here before we go. Try my cooking. Well then, I won't hold back. Su Ran nodded with a smile. Star, consider this as your home from now on. Leading Star into his own foster shop, Su Ran opened his mouth with a smile. Xilu Tilda. As Star looked about, its eyes flashed with anticipation for the new life. Meow Tilda, welcome home. Xian circled around Star once as a welcoming ceremony for the new member, then jumped back to its own spot on the counter. On the way there, Star and Xian gradually became acquainted, and Star no longer showed the resistance it had at first when startled. Now, it neighed friendly towards Xian, waiting for Su Ran to settle in. Let me see. First, take a rest here, and tonight you can stay in the foster area. Su Ran contemplated for a moment before he quickly made a decision. At this moment, the system is still being upgraded, and Star entering it would be considered a new resident, so for now, it can't enter yet. By evening, the system upgrade should be completed, and then Star could move in. Although the foster area is a little smaller compared to Uncle Su's horse ranch, there's still plenty of space for Star to run around in daily, and there are other residents there as well, so Star won't be alone. Having decided how to settle Star, there was but one thing left. Awaken Star as a transcendent being. Star, close your eyes. Su Ran silently took out the awakening stone and placed it against the obediently closing eyes of Star, wishing it good luck, same as he did during Xian's awakening, then let it go and step aside. Xilu tilde. Star's body slightly trembled. The awakening stone didn't drop even once, but rather hovered in the air and gradually merged into its forehead. As the awakening stone completely merged, multicolored radiance emerged from Star's body, enveloping it layer by layer. Seeing the awakening scene again, Su Ran, with a dawning comprehension, found it familiar. Because he had previously used the insight mirror to choose the beast egg, he was now familiar with the colors representing the different attributes. By looking carefully, one could see that the radiance emitted was interweaved by exactly 10 different colors, corresponding to 10 different attributes. As Su Ran observed, the 10 colors became 9, and the cyan color corresponding to wind attribute quietly disappeared. Followed by it was the red color corresponding to fire attribute. Based on his experience with Xian's awakening, the disappearing color represented the attribute that Star didn't resonate with. And the last color left behind would become Star's final attribute. Meow tilde, was this how I awakened back then? Xian, lying on the counter, watched this scene with great interest. Watching this process from a bystander's perspective, compared to experiencing it firsthand, were two entirely different things. Seeing Star being enveloped in the colorful radiance, Xian's eyes displayed an unusual sense of loss. What did it feel like when it awakened? If it remembered correctly, it seemed to have had a dream. In the dream, all the things it was once terrified of emerged, and in the end, it saw a bolt of lightning descending from the sky. Thunder was the power of which Xian, a stray cat at the time, was most scared. It once saw another stray cat who roamed with it die from a lightning strike, and from then on, it had a deep psychological shadow. Perhaps one's greatest fear is the deepest desire of the heart. So, it finally awakened to the thunder attribute and had this power under its control. Then, what would Star's awakening be like? Chapter 185 Awakening, the Second Pet. Extra 510 for the Silver Alliance rippling spring sounds. Xilu tilde. In the deep darkness, Star takes one step at a time towards an unknown direction. Confusion fills its deep purple-black eyes, looking around, but it sees nothing. Where is this? In the unknown darkness, it feels an inexplicable fear, but within the fear, it feels as if something is calling out to it. Xilu tilde. A long whinny comes from the depths of the darkness. Hearing that familiar sound, a spark returns to Star's eyes. That's Father's voice. From a young age, it had always chased its father's shadow. It has faith that it's not mistaken about this voice. Subconsciously, Star moves faster toward that direction. Its steps get faster and faster, then it breaks into a run, putting all its strength into it. Whoosh! A shrill wind gusts without warning in the darkness, and the wind, as if with consciousness, deliberately surrounds Star layer by layer, forcing its steps to slow down. In the wild wind, Star's mane is blown into a frenzy, its slender body shivers. It braces its 4 hooves on the ground and manages to stand firm. The wind is intense. Star stubbornly lifts its head. It seems to hear its father's voice more clearly in the wind. It wants to hear it more clearly. Star exerts all its strength and cautiously takes the first step forward. Seemingly infuriated by Star's provocation, the wind becomes even more violent. Clomp clomp tilde. Unable to maintain its footing in the wind, Star is forced to go back a few steps. At that moment, the wind dissolves into nothingness. What also disappears is the sound of its father. Standing in the same place, having lost hope, Star shows a look of despair. Once again, it walks aimlessly into the distance. Xilu tilde. Another familiar whinny came faintly from the other side. Star's eyes light up again. This is the voice of a flame horse, a young friend that grew up with Star in the base. Recognizing the other's voice, Star moves step by step towards it. In the deep darkness, a ray of bright light suddenly appears. That is the blaze reaching the sky. The terrifying heat forms violent heat waves that rush at Star. Xilu. The voice of its comrade is clearer, located right in the center of the blaze. Star takes step by step trying to get closer, but eventually resigns and retreats, leaving traces of charred blackness from the blaze on it. As the flame disappears, the comrade's voice also disappears along with it. Star moves forward. thunder, ocean, Rocky Mountain ice. It has been called over and over again by familiar Winnies, experiencing various powerful forces, but in the end, it was shut out by them all. In the end, Star stopped. It heard no more whinnies, but ahead of it, a familiar figure was walking out of the darkness. That was a black horse, its strong physique imbued with an elegant temperament, and its black horn at the forehead was refined as if made of obsidian, shiny and translucent. That's its mother, Black Sky. Xilu Tilda. Exposed to the darkness for a long while and rejected over and over again, seeing its mother ignites Star's emotions. It rushes forward, hoping to feel its mother's warmth like before. However, in the next moment, the figure of its mother is swallowed by the darkness. In the world without light, Star is lost again. Xilu. Star frantically trots in place, spinning around. Exhaustion strikes from the deepest part of its body. Having held itself together until now, Star suddenly feels so tired. At that moment, a faint starlight tears through the darkness. Then comes the second and the third starlight. Star, lifting its head, sees a night sky adorned with countless stars. That's the scenery it couldn't be more familiar with. It doesn't remember when it first watched the night sky. But from the first time it saw the night sky, it was attracted to a small, unnoticed star. This star does not move with the other stars. Its light is more dim than the other stars, making it stand out from the crowd. But Star could relate itself to it. They were so alike, both unique beings within their groups. And now Star sees it again. Star keeps gazing at that single dim star in the sky until its sight starts to blur, and its consciousness starts to fade. In a trance, it seems to see that dim star gradually brighten and fly towards it, lying on its forehead. Is it over? Watching the colorful glow enveloping Star leave only one type of color, a sigh of regret emerges on Su Ran's face. For some reason, despite each being an awakening, Star took much more time than Xian to awaken. More than 2 hours passed. If it wasn't for the system being reliable, he'll almost think the awakening had a problem. Looks like Star has awakened to the dark attribute. Looking at Star shrouded in darkness, Su Ran nods. I wonder what kind of skills it will have. Opening his personal panel, he quickly found 2 dark attribute skills among the previously useless skills. 2-star dark attribute skill, Nightfall. This skill allows some dark attribute skills which require a dark environment to be used without restriction. It is a quite useful support skill. 1-star dark attribute skill, Dark Elemental Pearl. This skill comes from the Dark Scale Dragon. It is a ranged attack skill, with low cost, weak power, and can be repeatedly used. Chapter 101, 85 Awakening, the Second Pet. It seems that these 2 skills can be removed from the skill list. Xilu Tilda. Accompanied by an enthusiastic neigh, Star emerged from the dissipating black light. Originally less than Su Ran's height, the small horse had drastically grown in stature after awakening, exceeding 2 meters now. Looking at its youthful proportions, one could tell that it could grow even larger in the future. Star, come here, Su Ran smiled and beckoned Star. Xilu Tilda. Star quickly stepped over to Su Ran's side, lowered its head slightly, and rubbed against Su Ran's palm, its eyes full of excitement and agitation. It understood that its ability to awaken and gain such formidable power was inseparable from the human standing before it. Its father was right. By the side of this human, it could change its fate. Petting Star's forehead, Su Ran carefully observed him. His gaze first landed on Star's forehead. There was a new white mark there, which looked like starlight. This white appearing against Star's dark fur seemed quite strange. Then Su Ran noticed Star's increasingly spirited and beautiful purple crystal-like eyes. The mane at the back of Star's neck and its long tail had become elongated and slender, turning purple at the tips, matching the beautiful purple of its eyes. Time for a system identification. Race name, Night Colt. Attribute, Dark Attribute. Growth stage, Transcendent stage. Body type, Medium. Washing and protection requirement. System is upgrading, washing and protection not applicable. Evaluation, Slight. Whether washing and protection is applied or not is not important. What's important is, Su Ran now knows Star's actual race, a Night Colt. Meow, purple is nice. Curiously looking at the renewed Star, Xian nodded in satisfaction. It has purple, Star also has purple. It approves of this little brother. Xilu Tilda. Star turned to look at Xian, then walked step by step in front of it. Just like rubbing against Su Ran's palm, Star rubbed against Xian's smooth and soft fur to express affection. What should it do now? Xian thought for a while. Then, copying the motion of Su Ran petting its head, it stretched out a paw, using its soft paw pad to rub on the white mark on Star's forehead. Stroke, stroke, letter 2CA omega, letter 2CB, backslash asterisk, high letter E05. Seeing the two pet beasts getting along, Su Ran slightly nodded. With this, his last concern was gone. Star, would you like to form a contract with me and become my second pet beast? Xylulu tilde. What responded to him was Star's longing neigh. After getting Star's affirmative reply, Su Ran slowly closed his eyes. Two light yellow vortexes floated and sank in his mind. This was the power of the second stage contract. Compared to the previous first stage power of the contract, not only has its scale grown, its color became even deeper, and its number divided into two. One connected tightly with Xian's breath, and the other was without any presence. That was the extra contract slot gained after reaching the second stage. Using his mind to urge this power of the contract to wrap around Star in front of him, Su Ran quickly felt the other's immediate connection to him. Contract successful. The power belonging to Star emerged from its body and flowed into Su Ran's body through the contract's feedback. Compared to Xian, already at the elite stage, the power fed back from Star seemed insignificant, but when Star also breaks through to the elite stage in the future, this feedback will become considerable. By then, Su Ran's own strength would double directly. At that time, he could actually confront the Transcendent Stage pet beasts. When that time comes, he could suppress Transcendent Stage pet beasts just by his own strength. As Su Ran stroked Star's mane, feeling the joyous emotions from recently contracted Star, he casually opened his personal panel. Host Su Ran. Contract Power, Second Stage. Contract Pet Beast. Xian View Details. Star View Details. System Skills. Plucking Fur Sea Level, 57-100. Drug Application Sea Level, 3-500. Pranks D Level, 0-100. Pet Beast Skills. Nightfall Teachable. Dark Elemental Pearl, Non-Teachable. Useless Skills Omitted. Physical Points, 0. Skill Points, 0. Pleasure Points, 10,212. System Upgrading, Remaining Time 0 2332. Seeing the addition of Star in the Contract Pet Beast column, a smile spread across Su Ran's face. However, as his gaze continued downwards, noticing the one-star skill Dark Elemental Pearl that was listed as unteachable in the skill list, his face took on a look of surprise. What's going on? Dark Attribute skills can't be taught to a Dark Attribute pet beast. It was the first time Su Ran had come across such a situation. Before, Xian just simply accepted any Thunder Attribute skills. Oh well, let's first take a look at Star's details. Contract Pet Beast, Star. Race Name, Night Colt. Attribute, Dark Attribute. Growth Stage, Transcendent Stage, 213/500+. Race Stage, Leader Species. Skills, Twilight Watch, Stardust Level. Star Chain, Stardust Level. Night Eyes, Stardust Level. Night Song, Stardust Level. Tenacity, Stardust Level. What? Observing the 4 2-star skills lined up, Su Ran's face was full of astonishment. As far as he knew, the number of 2-star talent skills was commonly used to determine the power of a leader species. 4 2-star skills were the limiting number of talent skills of a leader species and symbol of an elite leader species. Could Star actually have this potential? He glanced at Xian, who was also awakened by an awakening stone, yet only had 2 2-star talent skills, and came up with a guess after some contemplation. Perhaps it was related to the situation before awakening. Before Xian awoke, it was just an ordinary kitten. While Star was the offspring of 2 transcendent beings, it just did not inherit its parent species by a small probability. Perhaps this transcendent power did not dissipate, but hid deep within its bloodline, triggered by the awakening stone, endowing it with greater power. The longer process of Star's awakening might also be related to this. Of course, this wasn't too notable a point for Su Ran. With the system's add points, talent was not that important. Dark Scale Dragon is an elite leader species with 4 2-star talent skills. Didn't it still get defeated by Xian? The effects of Star's skills were the most crucial. Suran had a hunch that Star's inability to learn Dark Elemental Pearl might be related to his own talent skills. "Come Star, display Twilight Watch," Suran commanded. From the name, could this possibly be a defense skill? Xilu. Star glanced at Xian, then neighed, stamping its front hooves on the ground. Ding tilde. Accompanied by a crisp sound, ripples spread in all directions from where Star touched, on the floor of the shop. These ripples, upon reaching Xian, quickly stuck to it, as if a light film not affecting its mobility was attached to its body. The next moment, Suran's eyes widened involuntarily. As the light film covered Xian completely, its momentum rapidly ascended, visibly getting a little taller and maintaining this state. Meow. The previously leisurely Xian laying on the counter was alarmed by this sudden change, immediately stood up, felt the black light film continuously providing it with power, and looked at Star in surprise. Suran observed Xian and then the Star, continuously generating black ripples, with his eyes becoming brighter. This was not defensive skill but an amplifying skill. Moreover, it does not amplify itself, it amplifies allies. Try another, use Star Chain. Suran, with a touch of excitement, urged. Xilu. Star nodded and then neighed again. Its purple eyes lit up. In the sight of Suran and Xian, purple energy covered Star's body, condensing into an energy saddle and reins. Xilu. Star looked at Suran, its eyes full of invitation and expectation. Looking at the bridle hanging in the air, awaiting the other end to be held, Suran blinked. "Do you want me to ride on it?" P.S. For readers with a brighter reading background, it's suggested to click through to see Star's design. Chapter 102-86, The Magical Star Chain. It's been a month since I arrived in this world. Throughout this month, Suran has acquired many skills through washing and protection, and witnessed countless others. Indeed, some of the skills were quite unique, their effects and displays proving to be incredibly intriguing. However, Suran had never seen a skill as fascinating as this. Transforming energy into a bridle and saddle. Clearly, the skill wasn't just about energy transformation. Curious and intrigued, Suran swiftly climbed onto Star's back. Reaching out, he grabbed the other end of the bridle that was suspended in the air. Boom! As his hands touched the bridle, Suran felt a mysterious power linking him and Star together. Their powers intermingled and merged into a cohesive force. In this state, he could fully share his power with Star, meaning he could use his hands to project the dark attribute power. Suran, sitting on Star's back, was stunned. Because of the nurtured power from Xian and Star, his power was even more potent than Star's right after its awakening. When these forces combined, Star's strength significantly increased, if he were to use a skill in this state. Instinctively, Suran wanted Star to use Twilight Watch again for comparison. But before he could issue the command, Suran realized it wasn't necessary. Snap! He snapped his fingers casually, and within the black ripples, Xian's body was enveloped in a light film. In this state, he could also use Star's skills. Meanwhile, Xian's capacity rose again, and the increase was evidently more significant than the last time. It really works. Having his guess confirmed, Suran was overwhelmed with excitement. So what's next? Suran and Star beneath him simultaneously closed their eyes. When they reopened, their pupils had turned into pure black, devoid of any white. 2-star skills, Stardust level Night Eyes. Suran had heard of this skill before and was quite familiar with it. It, like the pupilless eye of the dark-scale dragon, was a skill that augmented vision, but in different ways. The pupilless eye could foresee opponents, moves to some extent, while Night Eyes simply augmented vision, especially night vision. Because of its purity, it was potent. At night, Night Eyes can clearly see even the slightest movement thousands of meters away. Although it wasn't midnight now, through Star's Night Eyes, Suran could feel his vision significantly improved. He could see even the dust in the air clearly. Subsequently, Suran, riding on Star's back, began to try the last 2-star skill, Night Song. Xilu. Star excitedly reared up, preparing to sprint. A thin layer of dark light rippled around it, as if a potent force was brewing inside. However, the next moment, the thin layer of darkness quietly dissipated. Star's front hooves awkwardly dropped back to the ground, a hint of embarrassment in its eyes. This skill, called Night Song, could only be used in darkness. A skill that can only be used in the dark, huh? A smile spread across Suran's face. Well, this skill can come in handy then. 2-star skill Nightfall Teach. Xilu. Star's eyes widened in surprise and bewilderment. It felt as if countless experiences of skill usage suddenly surged into its mind, somehow mastering a brand new skill effortlessly. Star. Meow tilde, don't be so excited, that's basic. Xian patted Star's head, its expression profoundly mysterious. With Xian's simple explanation, Star understood that this skill was taught by Su Ran, and there were more skills to come in the future. In an instant, Star looked up to Su Ran with immense respect. My beast master is so incredible. Whenever we encounter other suitable skills, I'll keep teaching them to you. Su Ran pet the fur on the back of Star's neck, his tone full of anticipation. Now we can test. Su Ran, are you there? A somewhat familiar voice sounded outside the closed shop door, interrupting Su Ran's words. That voice is. Su Ran's eyebrows raised. A short-haired girl with wheat-colored skin appeared in his mind. Why is she here? As he opened the shop door, Su Ran quickly spotted the figure in his mind. By her side, there was a huge wolf with a height of 5 meters and fur as white and sleek as snow. It was Su Jiuju and her pet beast, Frost Dust Wolf. Come on, seeing Su Ran, Su Jiuju seemed quite excited. My dog has become much stronger. Let us duel again. Before she could say duel, seeing Xian inside the shop, who had not only increased in size but also emitted an energy far beyond any ordinary transcendent stage pet beast, Su Jiuju abruptly stopped. You? Su Jiuju's eyes widened in disbelief, her gaze moving between Xian and Su Ran before she blurted out, You've made a breakthrough, so quickly. Just yesterday, during the competition, he was only a beast master at the first stage of contract power, yet he had made a breakthrough overnight. Thinking of herself, who excitedly brought her more potent dog over for revenge, Su Jiuju felt a mix of emotions. Even before the competition, I was just one step away from the second stage. Su Ran had already thought of an explanation, and with a faint smile he said, So, did you come to challenge me? Chapter 103-86, The Magical Star Chain. It was. Su Jiuju couldn't help but roll her eyes. Now that your pet beasts have already reached the elite stage, there's no point in comparing anymore. Not necessarily. Su Ran suddenly had an idea and lightly tapped on Star, who was standing nearby. This is my second pet that I contracted, Star. Eh? It was only then that Su Jiuju noticed Star in the field. After taking a close look at him, her face showed a hint of confusion. Boss Su, you aren't thinking of having it spar with my dog, are you? She admitted that her Frost Dust Wolf would definitely not be a match for Xian of the elite stage, but at the transcendent stage, Frost Dust Wolf is certainly top-notch. This horse-type pet beast in front of her that looked quite handsome was clearly inferior to the Frost Dust Wolf in terms of aura. It was considerably far from reaching the peak of the transcendent stage. Against such an opponent, Frost Dust Wolf could easily defeat it in seconds. Comparing doesn't necessarily mean fighting. Su Ran chuckled. My pet doesn't have any attack skills, so of course I won't let it fight your Frost Dust Wolf. Your Frost Dust Wolf is quite good at speed, isn't it? How about we have a speed race? Night Song, the skill that was unsuccessful earlier, could be deployed now in combination with the newly taught Nightfall. However, based on the preparatory movement before Star's deployment and the name of the skill, Su Ran speculated that it would probably be a skill related to speed. Testing it in the narrow space of the store would not fully reveal its power. The outdoors would be the most suitable test site. Su Jiuju's arrival was just in time. The Frost Dust Wolf was inherently good at speed. Its Frost Flower Path move used in the previous match left a deep impression on Su Ran. Comparing it with Frost Flower Path would provide a good measurement of Night Song's strength. A speed race? A look of surprise crossed Su Jiuju's face. She clearly didn't expect Su Ran to suggest that. Soon, though, a cunning smile appeared. All right, we can have a speed race, but how about we add some stakes? What stakes do you want? Su Ran was taken aback. Let me think. Su Jiuju stroked her chin. Actually, I came over today not just to compare with you, but also to put my dog up for fosterage here. I told you before I still have unused days from my previous fosterage plan at your store. Now those days are up, and I haven't forgotten our previous bet. Su Jiuju giggled. So for this bet, how about this: if you win, you give my dog a free grooming service. If you lose, I'll have a 1-month fosterage plan at your store all at once. In Su Jiuju's view, there was almost no suspense about the upcoming speed race. It was so easy to win that she felt a bit embarrassed to propose too much as stakes. So it is settled then. Su Ran slightly nodded. About a kilometer from here, there is an abandoned road that people rarely pass by. The total length is about 5 kilometers. How about we have a competition there? I have no objections. Do we ride our pets there or advance to the finish line and wait? Su Jiuju casually asked. Of course we ride our pets. Su Ran replied seriously. At this moment, it's only right that we share weal and woe with our pets. What a joke without the star chain. How could Star, who just awakened, compete with the frost dust wolf in speed, which already mastered the starlight level frost flower path? All right then. Su Jiuju nodded. Seeing Su Ran leaving the store with his 2 pets and then closing the door again, she couldn't help but be curious. Hey, you were advertising so much during the competition, and today should be a very good business day for you, right? Why isn't the shop open? The store is under renovation right now to accommodate more customers. Su Ran chuckled, checking the time. The renovation will probably be completed by the time we finish our race and return. Plus, besides the original services, the store will also offer an accompanying training service. Accompanying training? Su Jiuju's eyes lit up. I'm quite interested in this. How much does it cost? Well, Su Ran pondered for a moment. The system hadn't finished upgrading yet, so he didn't know the price. But barring any unexpected issues, the price will definitely be worth the value. Su Ran looked at Su Jiuju and spoke earnestly. Got it, it's very expensive. Su Jiuju nodded with understanding. As they were talking, they soon arrived at the abandoned road. This stretch of highway had seen better days. The road surface was dotted with potholes, making it extremely dangerous for vehicles to traverse. It had therefore been cordoned off with iron nets a while ago, redirecting the traffic via other roads. However, no one had come to repair or deal with it yet, leading to its current state of abandonment. For holding a pet beast race, this was the perfect setting. The uneven terrain even added a certain level of difficulty. Pet beasts can use any skills, but they can't attack each other. Is that clear? Sitting atop the eager-to-go Star, Su Ran turned his head to look at Su Jiuju, who was beside him. The wheat-skinned, short-haired girl dressed in sporty attire sat adeptly on the back of the frost dust wolf. With each of her hands clutching a tuft of fur, she looked valiant under the sunlight. It was indeed fitting of her title of White Wolf Girl. No problem, Su Jiuju, unconcerned, nodded quickly. Meow, cheer up, cheer up. Xian retreated to the edge of the abandoned highway, waving her claws to cheer and invigorate Star. She would follow the two throughout the race. With her power at the elite stage, using electric pursuit wasn't a tricky task. We'll start together in 10 seconds, Su Ran called out, then started counting down in his heart. Zilulu, charge. Star let out an invigorating neigh, lifting his front hoof high and then slamming it down, eagerly anticipating the upcoming race. Having become a transcendent being, this would be his first full-force sprint. The power he had longed for had already brought him speed incomparable to before. Purple energy emanated from Star and coalesced under Su Ran into an energy saddle, while 2 bridles formed at the same time, fluttering in the air. 2-star skill, Stardust level star chain. A touch of solemnity appeared on Su Ran's face, because the upcoming speed race would involve his own power as well. He stretched out his hand, slowly gripping the bridles in the air. On the other side, Su Jiuju and the frost dust wolf were also silently counting down 10 seconds, poised and ready to go. Through the contractual sensing that Su Ran couldn't hear, Su Jiuju was cheering on the frost dust wolf. If you win this race, Boss Su will give you a free washing and protection service. It's worth 66,666. You must win this race. Use the new skill we just learned. Howl. In response, the frost dust wolf let out a battle-ready howl. The reason one person, one pet decided to drop by today was not only because the fosterage period for the frost dust wolf was up, but also because the frost dust wolf, through its own diligent practice, mastered a new skill yesterday. Ice attribute 2-star skill, Cold Frost Heart. This was a skill that could amplify all ice attributes, but at the same time, it would increase the consumption of ice attribute skills. It exchanged greater consumption for stronger power. Su Jiuju and the frost dust wolf had spent a large amount of time practicing this skill. Their continuous losses to Su Ran and Liu Guang stimulated the competitive spirit in the frost dust wolf, causing it to inexplicably resonate with the skill and master it. If the wolf had mastered this skill during the competition, it was unknown whether the rankings of the challenge match would have stayed the same. The ice attribute skill, Frost Flower Path, that boosted speed also fell under the amplification range of Cold Frost Heart. This time, Sujiuju couldn't figure how she could lose the speed race. Suddenly, she noticed an unusual aura surrounding her and swiftly turned her head. She saw a man and a horse with their auras completely interwoven as if they were one entity. She felt the gradually escalating momentum from Star, which subtly suppressed the Frost Dust Wolf. Sujiuju's eyes unwittingly widened, her face full of disbelief. At this moment, a thought abruptly popped into her mind. Oh no, I've been tricked by this cunning merchant. Chapter 104-87 Run at Full Speed, Star. What's that skill? Can beast masters and pet beasts actually merge? Sujiuju's mind was in a whirl, only returning to her senses when Su Ran and Star made their sprinting move. The 10 seconds are up already. Never mind all that, just charge first. Even if Su Ran has his special tricks, she won't be a pushover either. Doggy charge. Mildly bending her upper body, steadying herself on the back of the Frost Dust Wolf, Sujiuju pulled slightly on a bunch of long fur she had pre-grabbed. Ow! The Frost Dust Wolf let out a powerful howl, its chilly aura spreading around, condensing the surrounding moisture into countless tiny frost crystals. With each step it took, new moisture condensed, the previous frost slowly falling to the ground, turning into numerous tiny frost particles. With the enveloping chill, the Frost Dust Wolf seemed to have gained a boost, appearing even more formidable. 2-star skills, Stardust level Cold Frost Heart. Although she hadn't had the chance to upgrade this skill to the Starlight level, the visible enhancement to the Frost Dust Wolf was already noticeable. Crack! The first ice flower blossom on its feet, followed by the second, third one, and even more, making the Frost Dust Wolf suddenly speed up, carrying Sujiuju, charging forward like a white frost storm. 2-star skills, Starlight level Frost Flower Path. This skill, which Su Ran was familiar with, under the enhancement of Cold Frost Heart, burst forth terrifying speed. In just an instant, the Frost Dust Wolf had taken Sujiuju and overtaken Su Ran and Star, who had a head start. Nay! Seeing such a speedy opponent, the fighting spirit immediately rose in Star's eyes. We're using skills as well, Su Ran issued a low shout, Nightfall. Star understood, immediately deploying the newly learned skill. Its dark body became completely pitch black. Its smooth fur, which normally reflected sunshine, was now transformed from a glossy to a matte finish, no longer reflecting even the faintest light. Even its purple mane and long tail at the ends turned entirely black. What also turned dark was Star's purple crystal-like eyes. With the exception of the marking on its forehead, which maintained its original color, the rest of Star's body turned completely black in a breath. A heavy dark power enveloped its body and the small area surrounding it, as if creating a dark atmosphere around its body. 2-star skill, Stardust level Nightfall. With the skills deployed, Su Ran and Star both felt their power draining continuously. This special skill, which was only usable during the night, was powerful regardless of environment, but it also consumed more energy, draining set amounts of power each moment to maintain the night environment. Now, looking at the Frost Dust Wolf, which had almost reached 100 meters in front, Su Ran took a deep breath. Night Song. Nay, Star, who had been eagerly awaiting this moment, excitedly raised its front hooves and then stomped heavily onto the ground. The rebounding force from the ground enabled it to leap in an instant. The pitch-black light film wrapped it layer by layer. The power of darkness transformed into patterns of strange and gaudy light, revolving around Star's body, looking cool and filled with a sense of mystery. As this power of darkness enveloped it, Star's body seemed to merge into the darkness of the night. Its speed suddenly rose, leaving a string of black afterimages with each leap. 2-star skill, Stardust level Night Song. Nay! Feeling the wild wind howling in its ear, Star's eyes were full of excitement. That's the feeling. It used to envy its companions, who could easily surpass it with their transcendent skills to enhance their speed. But now it also had the same power. At this moment, Star felt as if it were enveloped in the embrace of darkness, its body lighter and lighter, with each leap propelling it tens of meters forward, running freely and calmly, light and swift. The Frost Dust Wolf in front could no longer widen their distance. The gap between the two stabilized at a little over 100 meters, with no further changes. even though there was a huge gap in skill proficiency level with its opponent, Star. After linking up with Su Ran using the Star Chain, its overall strength surpassed the full-fledged Transcendent stage. Hence, there was no disadvantage in terms of speed. Meow Tilda surpass it. At the side of the abandoned road, Xian's four paws turned into elemental form, easily catching up with the two. At this moment, seeing Star's burst of speed, excitement welled up in its eyes, and it couldn't help cheering it on. Nay, charge, charge, charge. With the encouragement from the leader, Star felt more confident. As if boundless power was being pumped into its trotting hooves, its speed was getting faster as it got the hang of things. Closer, even closer. The body of the frost dust wolf started to enlarge in its vision. The distance between the two began to shorten. Sensing the approaching presence behind her, Su Jiujiu couldn't help but look back, her face changing when she saw Star's current state. So fast. This horse-type pet beast skills doesn't look like they're just at the starlight level. If it manages to surpass us, it'll be so embarrassing. What's more important is, the free washing and protection would be gone too. Doggy will speed up too, Su Jiujiu shouted in a low voice, for your washing and protection charge. Chapter 105-87 Run at full speed, Star. Awu. The frost dust wolf's eyes were filled with blazing will to fight. The acceleration of its strong paws increased sharply. Each forceful stride was like a howling gale. Frost flowers gathered and shattered under its feet. The frost swirling around it intensified. To pull away from Star at this moment, the frost dust wolf was doing its utmost. 100 meters, 110 meters, 120 meters. The distance which was being reduced originally was once again being widened at this moment. Zilulu. In the eyes of Star, who perceived this, shone an obstinate determination. It strived to accelerate again, but unluckily, the speed it achieved just now had already been its limit. Watching as the opponent in front gradually dwindled in its sight, a touch of unwillingness flashed in Star's eyes. Don't worry. At this moment, Su Ran's hand lightly landed on Star's head. Don't forget, you still have a 1-star skill. 1-star skill, Stardust level tenacity. Even though it's also just Stardust level, the passive nature of this skill made sure that Star was endowed with a stamina more formidable than the frost dust wolves. 5 kilometers of track was not too long, but certainly not short either. Could the frost dust wolf run the full course at its current speed? Su Ran knew very clearly. The chances of it doing so were very slim. But Star could. Zilulu, that's right. An exhilaration sprung up in Star's obsidian eyes. Reminded by Su Ran, it too thought of that point. It too had the hope of victory. Don't think about anything else, run at full speed, Star. Su Ran shouted in a low voice, also leaning slightly forward to reduce wind resistance, holding tight to the reins transformed by the Star Chain. Charge. With the soothing and encouragement from Su Ran, Star's mood quickly settled down. It didn't blindly increase its speed anymore. Instead, it continued to keep up its all-out speed, charging towards the direction of the finish line. 150 meters, 200 meters, 250 meters. The frost dust wolf, which had accelerated to its limits, once again left it behind. The track was filled with frost flowers and shards of frost that hadn't yet had time to dissipate. Meow, keep it up. On the roadside, Xian, who had been accompanying and watching the entire process, had encouragement in its eyes. Although it was somewhat annoyed watching its little brother being left behind by the frost dust wolf, it did hear what Su Ran said just now. It repeatedly accelerated to catch up with the frost dust wolf in front, then deliberately slowed down to stay beside Star, in order to gauge the gap between the two while simultaneously encouraging Star to keep striving. Time was bit by bit moving forward. Star and frost dust wolf had run nearly half the distance. The straight-line distance between the two had also reached nearly 500 meters. Looking ahead from Star's current position, the frost dust wolf was reduced to a speck of white. Despite making an all-out dash, it could only just make out the trail of frost flowers left by the frost dust wolf. However, at this moment, Xian, who had returned to Star and Su Ran's side, brought back good news. Meow, they are slowing down. Great, Su Ran shouted out loud. Star, maintain your current speed, it's our turn to overtake them. Zilulu. In response was Star's excited neigh. With the help of the tenacity passive skill, it, who was maintaining a constant all-out dash, had used up a considerable amount of strength, but it didn't feel any fatigue. With this condition, it could still run for a very long time. Star was confident that before reaching the finish line, it could maintain its current condition. Ha, we have already surpassed them this far. Sujiuju laughed heartily as he looked back and saw Su-ran and Star, who were almost reduced to a black speck. Good boy, let's power through. Awu. Good. A confident reply came from the frost dust wolf, although within that sound, a hint of fatigue was noticeable. Huh? Sujiuju quickly noticed that his pet beast wasn't at its peak, and promptly lowered his head to check. Upon seeing the slightly opened mouth and the faintly extended tongue of the frost dust wolf, Sujiuju nodded in understanding. So that's it, you've worked hard. The stamina of the frost dust wolf was not that strong. Such intense full-speed running, coupled with the exertion of the cold frost heart, created considerable pressure. After running 2 to 3 kilometers, a decline in performance was expected. It's okay if you're a bit tired, our competitors must not be faring much better. Sujiuju comforted the frost dust wolf by gently patting its head. Maintain your rhythm, and let's sprint towards the finish line. Awo. I can still keep going. Warrior spirit filled the eyes of the frost dust wolf. Although its speed had slightly decreased, it was also controlled with great efforts by the beast, maintaining a steady pace. 3 kilometers, 4 kilometers. Just 1 kilometer left, let's sprint to it. With the road sign at the edge of the path in sight, Sujiuju's face was filled with exhilaration. However, her expression quickly changed as she turned to look behind her. Hey! Seeing Su-ran and Star, who had unknowingly come up behind them and were less than 100 meters away from her, and the frost dust wolf, Sujiuju was taken aback. How is this possible? They had already fallen more than 500 meters behind. How could they catch up? That is illogical. Does Su-ran's pet beast never tire out? Awo. What's going on? With its state declining and its speed decreasing again, the frost dust wolf also turned to look as it heard the voice. It was dumbstruck upon seeing the unstoppable Su-ran and Star. If I am this exhausted, how can that guy still be running so fast? Little doggy, we need to speed up. Sujiuju gave a low shout, her eyes gleamed with a competitive spirit. She had been leading all this way. She didn't want to be overtaken in the last kilometer. That would be too embarrassing. Awo tilde. The frost dust wolf let out a long howl, struggling to support its exhausted body. It quickly activated the cold frost heart. The sudden eruption of cold air almost instantaneously enveloped its massive body with frosty mist. Under the combined effect of the cold frost heart, the speed of the frost dust wolf on the frost flower path increased again. As they were about to pull further ahead from Star, Sujiuju and the frost dust wolf heard Su-ran's voice from behind. Star, let's speed up too. Zilulu. Accompanied by a fervent neighing, a boundless force seemed to be poured into Star's 4 hooves. Like a ghost moving forward in the dark, its pace silently increased once again with the blessing of the night song. 80 meters, 50 meters, 30 meters, 10 meters. The frost dust wolf, which was rapidly accelerating by forcibly lifting its spirit, no longer had any advantages under the extraordinarily steady speed of Star, and after briefly running neck and neck, Star overtook the frost dust wolf with strong steps. The lead had changed hands. The finish line was right in front of them. Looking at the abandoned road sign just a stone's throw away, Su-ran and Star both let out a loud yell, unleashing all their power. They crossed the finish line like a streak of black light before finally halting their steps. At the finish line, Xian, who had been eagerly waiting, excitedly came forward. She gracefully leaped up and lightly patted the white spot on the forehead of Star as encouragement to her successor. Meow, you did great. Zilulu. Star returned to its original purple color, its eyes resembling a purple crystal, filled with excitement and joy. It did it. As a newly awakened transcendent being, it had a speed it had never dared to dream of before. At this moment, it thought about the words its parents said when it left the Mount Beast breeding base. From now on, you will have a new life of your own. Is this its new life? It loves it. Boss Su, your pet beast is just too amazing. Does it not get tired? And what on earth is this skill that you and your beast are using together? I have never heard of it. Sujiuju, who had just jumped off the frost dust wolf, could not resist speaking up. My Star has a 1-star passive tenacity skill, which greatly improves its durability in both running and fighting. Su-ran laughed. As for the skill we use together, that's another skill of star chain. After Su Ran briefly described the effect of the star chain, Su Jiuju couldn't help but show a look of envy. Damn, I want a pet beast like that too. Zai Lulu. Star neighed and held its head high. Star is unparalleled. Su Ran shook his head slightly, looking at the prompt message that suddenly popped up. A rich smile appeared on his face. The renovation and maintenance of the shop are completed. You can foster the frost dust wolf now. Chapter 106-88, Upgrade completed, new features. Adding 610 bonus chapters to Rippling Spring Sound for the Silver Alliance. Just as the two of them finished their race, the system notification that Su Ran had been waiting for finally arrived. System upgrade complete. Seeing the 6 characters appear before him, his smile became even brighter. According to his guess, the upgraded system should bring some kind of enhancements. He wasn't sure what those enhancements were, but he was sure of one thing. The system upgrade was definitely good news for him. Looking at Su Jiuju, who had remounted the Frost Dust Wolf and was preparing to return to the foster shop, Su Ran smiled slightly, similarly leaping upwards to sit on Star's back. Meow Tilda, take me with you. Xian, who was also a bit tired after running 5 kilometers, didn't miss this chance to laze about. With a light leap, he also jumped onto Star's back and lazily lay down in front of Su Ran. Xian's upper body was hanging on the left side of Star, while its lower body was draped over the right side, making it look like a big, soft puffball. Su Ran, amused, gently stroked Xian's soft fur and said in a low voice, "Star, let's go home." Su Lulu, no problem. As Star had just won a race, it was still in a state of high spirits. Instead of resisting Xian jumping onto its back, it seemed rather delighted. Without breaking into its top speed again, the journey back posed no pressure for Star. Alongside the Frost Dust Wolf, the 2 pet beasts headed towards the Starfair foster care shop. While one hand continued to stroke Xian's long fur, occasionally brushing the flowing mane behind Star's neck, Su Ran opened his personal panel with a thought. Host Su Ran. Contract Power, Second Stage. Contract Pet Beasts. Xian View Details. Star View Details. System Skills. Plucking Fur C Level. Drug Application C Level. Pranks D Level. Pet Beast Skills. Dark Elemental Pearl. Useless Skills Omitted. Physical Points 0. Skill Points 0. Pleasure Value 10,343. System Upgrade Experience 0-2,000. Main Task 1, Making a Big Entrance. Task Description, please raise all 3 system skill levels to B level. Task Rewards, System Clerk X1, System Upgrade Experience plus 100. Lottery Drawing. Recycling. Looking at the personal panel that differed somewhat from before, Su Ran stroked his chin. There was quite a lot of information to take in. First was the still non-teachable Dark Attribute, 1-star skill, Dark Elemental Pearl. After testing Star's skills, Su Ran had made certain speculations. Unquestionably, Star held an unparalleled advantage in assisting, with the skill like Star Chain that Su Ran had never heard of before. The creator was fair, and such a powerful pet beast would certainly have some flaws. Perhaps Star's flaw was that it couldn't master attack skills. Having speculated this, Su Ran's gaze shifted downwards, landing on the brand new system upgrade experience bar. The existence of the experience bar meant that the system could be upgraded more than once. That was good news, but for now, it was a bit too far off. He would deal with it later. Next, Su Ran saw the new system task. The new task had the prefix main task, instead of the previous novice task. Considering the system upgrade, could it be said that he had been in the novice phase all this time, and was just now leaving the novice village? When this idea came to his mind, a sense of helplessness appeared on Su Ran's face. So, after experiencing everything he did, he was still staggering about in the novice village. Looking at the description of the new task, it was clear that this task was more difficult than all the previous novice tasks. Among all his skills, the one closest to B level is Plucking Fur, which had just reached halfway to completion. Drug Application had just been upgraded and would take some time to get to B level. The most difficult one was Pranks. He hadn't even had a chance to use this skill since he got it, and it was still at the D-level progress bar at 0. The difficulty of raising it to B level was obvious. The rewards for the task, on the other hand, were completely different than Su Ran's previous ones. Apart from the usual system upgrade experience, the other reward was an abstract thing called a system clerk. System clerk. Was it what he thought it was? Su Ran stroked his chin, his expression easing into amusement. If it really was what he thought, then it would become interesting. Anyway, he would first get all 3 skills to B level as soon as possible, and see exactly what this different task reward was. Filled with an inward rush of encouragement, Su Ran continued to scroll down, skipping over the lottery drawing and stopping at the new function, recycling, at the very bottom. Upon opening it, a projection similar to a furnace appeared in front of Su Ran, with a small golden question mark at the top. Great, the system was very cooperative, sparing him the time of figuring it out. Su Ran casually touched the question mark sign, and quickly the introduction about the new feature flowed into his mind. Having digested all these contents, Su Ran's eyes slowly went wide. The problem of useless skills that he'd been worrying about was actually solved by the system. The newly appeared recycling function was specifically created to solve the problem of useless skills obtained by plucking fur. The usage was very simple. Select the skill obtained through plucking fur, drag it into the furnace, and these skills could be disassembled into varying amounts of skill fragments based on their star-level strength. Chapter 107-88, Upgrade completed, new features. Since it's recycling, these useless skills could naturally be put to good use again. When enough skill fragments are accumulated, they can be exchanged for skills to teach to pet beasts. Being able to freely choose the skills you get, instead of randomly receiving them through plucking fur, is obviously a lot more reliable. Taking a deep breath, Su Ran tentatively dragged the unteachable dark elemental pearl into the furnace. A moment later, accompanied by the cool special effects of flames gushing from the furnace, a line of text appeared before Su Ran's eyes. Obtain skill fragment X1. Just one. Su Ran made a face, slightly disappointed. The 1-star skills probably aren't worth much. After his plucking fur ability was upgraded to C level, Su Ran could obtain 2-star skills at the most through plucking fur, but obtaining different skills also had different probabilities. The probability of getting a 1-star skill was much higher than that of a 2-star skill. With his current plucking fur level, by grooming 2 pet beasts, he could get a 1-star skill. So at the moment, his list of useless skills consisted of many 1-star skills. All the electricity system and dark attribute skills that could be taught were taught. The 1-star skills will all be broken down. Wait, should the earth attribute skills be spared? Recalling the beast egg that was still on the nightstand on the 2nd floor, hesitation only lingered on Su Ran's face for a second before he tossed the 1-star earth attribute skill into the furnace. These weren't any rare skills. If needed, he could just pluck them later. Besides, it wasn't even certain if the hatched beast egg would become his pet beast. After breaking down all the 1-star skills, Su Ran ended up with 23 skill fragments in total. Next, on to the 2-star skills. Glancing at the remaining useless skills, Su Ran tentatively dragged a 2-star fire attribute skill into the furnace. Obtain skill fragment X4. Oh, it's more than the 1-star skill, but it doesn't seem to be that much either. Looking at the remaining 7 skills, Su Ran gritted his teeth and threw them all in. The number of skill fragments reached 55. Exchange. Expectation flickered across Su Ran's face as he clicked on a shopping cart icon in the corner of the recycling interface. He had just broken down 23 1-star skills and 8 2-star skills. The fragments from so many skills should be enough to exchange for a dozen or so skills. Right. Staring at the exchange rate listed in the store, Su Ran's face showed a trace of confusion. Choose 1-star skill, 10 skill fragments each. Choose 2-star skill, 40 skill fragments each. Choose 3-star skill, 200 skill fragments each. Choose. No need to read further, he can only afford a 2-star skill now. This damn system. 10 useless skills can only be exchanged for 1 skill of the same star level. You've really outdone yourself. Su Ran gritted his teeth, glanced at Xian and Star who were enjoying his pets, and exited the recycling interface. Even though he could exchange, he wouldn't be able to get much. He should consider this more long-term. Su Ran, who couldn't swallow his anger, casually clicked on the lottery drawing interface. He had noticed that he had slowly accumulated another 10,000 pleasure points, which meant he could do a 10-draw lottery now. Although Lucky Liu was not here, As everyone knows, the best time to do the lottery drawing is right after an update. Yes, I'm going to do a 10-draw lottery. Wait, no, nowhere near enough. Su Ran stared at the two options on the lottery drawing interface, his face frozen. Draw once consumes 10,000 pleasure points. Draw 10 times consumes 95,000 pleasure points. Huh? What? He incredulously counted the zeros one by one. No matter how many times he counted, there was one extra zero. What's the meaning of this? After the system upgrade, the pleasure points needed for the lottery drawing have increased tenfold. You system, you really are. Lottery function upgraded. No more white rewards. The probability of receiving other level rewards has increased in proportion. My precious. Seeing the line of text that suddenly popped up, Su Ran quickly changed his mind. If the probability of receiving other rewards has increased in proportion, does it mean that the previous probability of getting a white reward now corresponds to a green reward, and the previous green reward now corresponds to a blue reward? So about the probability that matches the blue rewards previously. Su Ran's heart involuntarily palpitated. Although the chances have increased tenfold, if he gets the purple reward every time he draws 10 consecutively, it seems, he wouldn't lose at all. He told himself no more drawing, save for a consecutive 10 draws, and then wait for Lucky Liu. Boss Su, what's wrong? Su Jiujiu turned around to see Su Ran sitting on Star's back. His face flicked between solemnity and surprise, a look of confusion apparent. Nothing, I was just thinking. Su Ran snapped back to reality, let out a laugh and looked around. We're almost there. During the time he was checking his personal panel, Star and Frost Dust Wolf had nearly arrived at the Foster's shop. Hee, let's first clean and care for my pup. Su Jiujiu patted Frost Dust Wolf's head. Though I didn't get your free cleaning service, my pup's been working hard. It certainly deserves a treat. Woof, Frost Dust Wolf raised its head, rubbing against Su Jiujiu, its icy blue eyes filled with joy. All right, Su Ran chuckled. It was evident that Su Jiujiu and Frost Dust Wolf had a great bond, much like he had with his own pet beasts. By the way, Su Jiujiu started. Nudging Su Ran with her elbow, looking around suspiciously, then covered her mouth like she was about to gossip. I heard a little rumor, Boss Su, that your cleaning isn't very professional. Su Ran. Where did you hear that from? Su Ran retorted. Cleaning is nothing more than bathing and grooming your pet beasts. How unprofessional can it be? I was scrolling through the forum the other day and happened to see a post talking about it. Su Jiujiu shrugged. But you're right, it's just cleaning. How unprofessional can it really be? They must have mistaken something. Yes, exactly. Su Ran nodded briskly, feeling secretly relieved inside. He is such a decent guy. If anything seems unprofessional, it must be the system's fault. That's why I want to keep an eye on you while you clean my pup. Su Jiujiu's unexpected remark caught Su Ran's expression frozen midway. She doesn't trust him. Starfair Foster Care Shop, this is it. Returning to the front door of the shop, Su Jiujiu hopped off Frost Dust Wolf, put her hands on her hips, looking quite pleased with herself as she pointed to the closed door. Open the door, Boss Su. Su Ran gave the suddenly eccentric girl a weird look, slowly opening the door. HMPH tilde Su Jiujiu, who had not entered the shop before, hummed a tune, sauntered in, and soon spotted the price list on the wall. Her tune went off-key immediately. This price. What's wrong with the price? I thought you knew the cleaning and caring costs. Su Ran casually replied, then followed her flabbergasted stare to the price list on the wall. His expression then froze as well. This price list, it's somewhat familiar yet strange. First off, cleaning and care prices. Under the original 3 price signs, there was another one. Super large pet beast cleaning, and carrying 266,666 yuan per session. Su Ran's mouth twitched a little. This price, it's something else. But does this mean that the shop can now clean and care for super large pet beasts? Su Ran glanced at the closed door of the grooming room. Super large pet beasts start at 10 meters long and can grow up to 30 meters. If they are even bigger than that, they would fall into the next size grade, gigantic. The current grooming room is huge, but it doesn't seem to fit the super large pet beasts. What is the system really trying to sell? A bit curious, Su Ran shifted his gaze to the foster care price list next to the grooming sign. This time there were more changes. The former foster services, which were divided based on size, are now solely divided by growth stages, at the same price as before for large pet beasts. Transcendent Stage Pet Beast Fosterage, 666 yuan per day. Elite Stage Pet Beast Fosterage, 6666 yuan per day. Leadership Stage Pet Beast Fosterage, 66,666 yuan per day. It seems some of the current tenants will experience a price hike once their foster care period is over. Su Ran stroked his chin and continued looking down. General Stage Pet Beast Fosterage, 266 Beast Master Points per day. King Stage Pet Beast Fosterage, 666 Beast Master Points per day. Well, the system is no longer content with just earning money. Directly charging Beast Master Points, that's pretty ruthless. Su Ran's eyes moved to the next column, quickly spotting a brand new price list. It's for the accompanying training service. After a moment, he looked back at Su Jiujiu, whose mouth was stupefied, a smile covering his face. You mentioned that you're interested in the training service. Chapter 108, 89 The Change in Washing and Protection. I suddenly feel like we should discuss the training later. Su Jiujiu sat up straight and spoke earnestly. Boss Su, please groom my dog first. All right, Su Ran grinned lightly, raising a hand to pat the frost dust wolf's forehead. Come this way. I want to watch. Seeing her pet following Su Ran towards the grooming room, Su Jiujiu quickly followed, her heart slightly relaxing. The price for training was identical to the same level of foster care, but charged by the hour. Because of her frost dust wolf's large body size, she was a regular at the foster shop, but she had never seen training prices so ridiculous. Isn't this just an added service for foster care? Why is it more expensive than fostering? While complaining internally, Su Jiujiu followed Su Ran into the grooming room. Her eyes widened once more as she gawked at the spacious grooming area far exceeding her expectations. She couldn't help but gasp. This is so big. Well, it's okay, Su Ran's mouth twitched. He was also surprised. The grooming room was now 10 times larger than before. Even a super large pet beast could easily be accommodated. No wonder the system had confidently added foster care service for super large pet beasts. But the problem is, surveying his surroundings, Su Ran's expression turned more peculiar. The shop space isn't this large. How on earth did the system manage to expand the inner space without making any changes to the external environment? Is it space technology or some other high-tech? Not every customer is as carefree as Su Jiujiu. Surely, there won't be any issue, right? Perhaps sensing Su Ran's thoughts, the system suddenly popped up a line of text. About the space expansion introduction, click to view details. As Su Ran clicked on it, lines of introductory text appeared. After careful reading, Su Ran's expression showed understanding. According to the system's explanation, such a technology is already present in this world, although its higher-end and foster shops have never used it. Customers who notice might think he is using a sledgehammer to crack nuts, but they wouldn't consider it unreasonable. Feeling reassured, he resumed the grooming session. Su Ran casually brought a stool for Su Jiujiu. You can keep it company here. Then, pointed to the grooming platform reserved for large pet beasts. Frost Dust Wolf, come up here. Growl. The Frost Dust Wolf's eyes were filled with anticipation as it lightly jumped onto the grooming platform and obediently lay down. Its mouth slightly open, panting, the clear gaze turned to watch Su Ran. At this moment, it didn't resemble a wolf at all. Instead, it rather looked like a pure white husky. A silent inner comment later, Su Ran walked towards the mixing station to prepare grooming products for the Frost Dust Wolf. To enhance the grooming effect this time, the system will provide the host with the relevant knowledge of the Advanced Grooming for Canine Pet Beast and Advanced Grooming for Ice Attribute Pet Beast. Su Ran's hand paused slightly. A gift again. Each time a specific type of pet beast received grooming for the first time, the system would provide Su Ran with the corresponding knowledge to compensate for his deficit in that area. This knowledge wouldn't be taken back after grooming, just like Su Ran's own learning, so the same knowledge wouldn't be granted again when encountering the same type of pet beast. He had groomed ice attribute pet beasts before. Ideally, he wouldn't receive the gift of basic grooming for ice attribute pet beast again. Wait a minute. Su Ran took a closer look at the floating text before his eyes. This was not basic but advanced. At the same time that Su Ran realized the difference between the two, the gifted knowledge began to flood his brain like a tide. Softly closing his eyes for an instant, Su Ran's eyes were brighter than ever when he opened them. Not the same. Totally not the same. The knowledge that was gifted to him at this moment was absolutely profound compared to his previous knowledge. If the previous basic had an information volume of 1, then the current advanced had an information volume of 10. Looking at the various products he had originally prepared for grooming the frost dust wolf, he furrowed his brows slightly. The more sophisticated grooming knowledge he now possessed made him reevaluate his previous preparation, immediately feeling rough and crude. It can be better. He began to revise the original formula and supplies. A mixture of familiarity and unfamiliarity showed in his actions. Shortly after, he turned to look at the frost dust wolf with a normal expression. "Come," he gently began, water with a chilling feeling gushing out from the shower head he held. The moment the water was sprayed out, the surrounding air temperature dropped by a few degrees. This cold water ought to freeze into ice, but after Su Ran added some special resources, it had a non-freezing effect. The icy water gently hitting the frost dust wolf's back gave it an incomparable comfort, very much like eating an ice lolly on a hot day. This refreshing sensation caused its massive body to shudder slightly. Pleasure value from the frost dust wolf plus 15. Indeed. Su Ran kept a straight face, but he was shouting for joy internally. Due to the more ingenious mixture of resources added to the bath dew, the frost dust wolf's comfort level had greatly increased, which in turn produced higher pleasure value. Even though the shop now offered a foster care service, grooming was still the primary source of pleasure value. The value obtained from the foster care service was lower, but the advantage was that it was sustainable and extremely stable. Upgraded grooming techniques following the system update meant that the pleasure value yield Su Ran earned was going to increase significantly. Chapter 109, 89 The Change in Washing and Protection. This upgrade is a real delight. Su Ran looked at the massive pup in front of him, his gaze gradually softening. With such a big body, it would take a long time to wash right. He gently stroked the slender white fur of the frost dust wolf, wetting every inch of its body with water, causing the wolf's fur to cling to its muscles, revealing a robust and smooth curve. The frost dust wolf's body couldn't stop shivering, and in the end, it couldn't resist shaking its head quickly to shake off the water, at the same time raising its head to let out a satisfying howl. Awu Tilda. Sujiuju, who was sitting beside and watching the whole process, widened her eyes slightly. What was going on? Isn't it just wetting with water? Why is her pup behaving so dramatically? She couldn't resist looking at Su Ran, and after noticing his gaze on the frost dust wolf, her heart skipped a beat again. This kind of gaze. Boss Su, you said you were decent. Awo tilde. Another weird sound came from the grooming room. Xian calmly tucked her paws under herself, lying on the counter, only occasionally glancing in the direction of the grooming room. In contrast, Star, who was beside Xian, was not so calm. The tiny head of the little monster was full of big doubts. What was happening inside that room? Why did its beast master and that big white dog, along with the other beast master, enter the room, and after a moment let out such strange noises? For Star, who had never experienced this before, the current situation was inexplicably weird. It subconsciously turned its head, and after seeing the calm expression on Xian's face, it seemed to understand a little more. Of course, Sister Xian had been here longer. She should know what was happening inside. Even though it didn't know, it could ask her. Xilu Tilda, what's happening in there? Meow Tilda, Su Ran is bathing that dog. Xian casually waved one paw, indicating that this was a very common situation. Bathing? Instead of relieving Star's confusion, it became even more confused. Why would its beast master bathe someone else's pet? Why doesn't he bathe Star? Xilu. As if facing a curious baby, Xian patiently explained the situation of the Starfare foster care shop to Star. Very soon, Star understood the meaning of grooming and foster care. So its beast master's regular job was to take care of other beast masters, pet beasts. Star's eyes filled with longing and envy. It also wanted to be cared for by the beast master. Meow Tilda, the new skills you learned, that's what Su Ran earns from. Looking at Star's yearning, Xian felt as their team senior, it was necessary to clue it in on a big secret only their closest associates could know. So, in her vivid storytelling, Star's longing gradually turned into admiration. So the beast master was working hard to make them stronger by taking care of the pet beasts of other beast masters. In this process, he continued to be misunderstood by outsiders due to the strange noises made by those pet beasts. It was so touching. Meanwhile, the sounds from inside the grooming room were getting more and more intense. Star couldn't resist looking in the direction of the grooming room again. It already knew that its beast master was inside bathing that big dog, but wasn't the commotion a bit too much? At the Mount Beast breeding base, there were also staff members who helped it and its companions get groomed. Washing off dirt, blowing dry and then applying some nice-smelling cream that it couldn't understand, their fur would become more beautiful, even gleaming under the sun. It was indeed quite comfortable, but not enough to make such noise, right? Meow Tilda, wait until Suran bathes you once, then you'll understand. Seeing his young employee's confusion, Xian didn't explain much. Some things could not be understood clearly without experiencing them firsthand. However, hearing the strange noise again, Xian couldn't help but shift his gaze towards the grooming room. The sound today seemed especially excited. Could it be that this dog is very sensitive? As time ticks away, the door to the grooming room finally opens. Suran comes out with the frost dust wolf, which looks like a new animal. Every strand of its fur is immaculate like snow, and upon close inspection, it has a hint of crystalline appearance. Behind them follows Sujiuju, who appears flushed with excitement. Originally, when Sujiuju heard her pet beast making such strange noises, she felt distressed and embarrassed, but she was no ordinary person. As the frost dust wolf's howls got stranger, Sujiuju's mindset also began to alter. She started to find the process stimulating, and an unusual sensation began to bubble up within her. So she gradually lowered the palms covering her eyes, watched the entire session intently as Suran groomed her pet beast. The more she watched, the more excited she became. Are you now going to foster the frost dust wolf here? Suran strangely glanced at Sujiuju. She claimed that she's serious, but she wasn't too serious herself, right? If it were not for the system that could only acquire the pleasure value from pet beasts, Suran would even start doubting if he could gain quite a lot from Sujiuju. Speaking of pleasure value, an excited look flashed in Suran's eyes. Grooming the frost dust wolf gave him a whopping 4,000 pleasure points. Of course, a portion of this is due to the frost dust wolf being a large-sized pet beast, but more importantly, it's due to the improvement in his grooming technique. This system upgrade isn't fully exploited yet, but what he already discovered is enough to stir his excitement. Sujiuju snaps back to reality, makes the payment by scanning the QR code. A bet is a bet. I've paid you for the grooming and 1 month's fosterage fee. Her face grimaced as she paid. Given the prices in Suran's shop, this wasn't a small sum. Luckily, the frost dust wolf hasn't broken through the elite stage, otherwise she might not be able to afford it. All right, Suran smiled. Then I will now take the frost dust wolf to the fostering area. Wait, I also want to see. Sujiuju opened her mouth without hesitation. Although she had already paid as agreed, as a responsible beast master, she definitely needed to inspect the foster environment. Of course, no problem. Suran shrugged indifferently, signaled Xian and Star to stay there, then led the frost dust wolf towards the back door. So your foster area is underground. Seeing the underground passage behind the door, Sujiuju's face revealed her understanding. I was wondering where you got the space to foster so many pet beasts. Turns out you've developed an underground space. Won't it be dark underground? No, there are artificial light sources. There's no difference from above ground. While professionally answering Sujiuju's questions, Suran looked at the foster area direction full of anticipation. The original foster area was not small, but it absolutely could not accommodate super large pet beasts, let alone the general stage and king stage pet beasts that he had never seen before. If it could reach this step, it meant the foster area, like the grooming room, had likely undergone some miraculous changes. So what were those changes? In the blink of an eye, the 2 people and 1 beast stepped into the foster area. Seeing the foster area that had changed as expected but beyond his imagination, Suran's eyes gradually widened. Firstly, the height of the foster area. The previous foster area was about 20 meters in height. Being able to open such a space underground was already quite remarkable. But now, the height of the foster area. Suran craned his neck to look at the artificial light source that was like a small sun above. Could it be 200 meters? Besides the height, this foster area had expanded roughly 10 times in length and width. The original foster area now occupied only a tiny corner. The inhabitants there had been temporarily separated from the other areas, unaware of the changes. Without a doubt, a normal underground space absolutely couldn't be so vast. It, just like the grooming room, utilized some kind of spatial expansion technique. Even Su Ran was quite astonished, let alone Su Jiuju, who followed closely behind. Su Jiuju rubbed her eyes hard, looking at the space that was much larger than she had imagined. If she hadn't been informed beforehand, she might even have believed herself to be in an outdoor environment. Such a large area. Su Jiuju looked at the other inhabitants in a corner, then the vacant area occupying the major place. Is this whole area for my dog? How could that be possible? Su Ran couldn't help but roll his eyes. Other pet beasts occupy 1% of the area, and her dog gets 99%. You are indeed the White Wolf Girl. No normal person would even dare to think like you. Chapter 110-90. You call this a training field. Pulling out the control hub, Su Ran began adjusting the foster area. The original isolation between the resident areas and other areas quietly disappeared. Under Su Ran's adjustments, their environment areas expanded one by one, becoming more reasonable. Su Ran then casually transformed an area into a snowy knoll that lasted all year round. This is for the frost dust wolf. Very nice, Su Jiuju nodded satisfactorily. Of course, she knew that her previous suggestion was impossible. She was already very satisfied that a large ice attribute environment could be allocated for her dog. This money was not wasted. Pleasure value +2 from armored rhinoceros. Pleasure value +2 from frost dust wolf. Watching the pleasure value feedback from the inhabitants after environment adjustment, a rich smile appeared on Su Ran's face. After the system upgrade, the manifested environment of the foster area is not only larger, but also has a higher concentration of energy. The inhabitants live more comfortably, and the pleasure value obtained from the environment has increased correspondingly. He suddenly looked forward to the pleasure value provided by feeding. If this also gets upgraded. Looking at the time, it was time to feed the inhabitants. This is a good opportunity to test it. I'm going to prepare food for all fostered pet beasts. If you're interested, you can watch. Su Ran turned his head to look at the curious Su Jiuju. Sure, Su Jiuju's eyes lit up. She left the frost dust wolf frolicking in the snow and quickly followed Su Ran. Being able to see the source of the food provided by the foster shop is naturally better. Moreover, she had seen a rumor on the forum. It said, the food Su Ran feeds the pet beasts in his shop is not so straightforward. Before this, Su Jiuju had scoffed at this idea. How can feeding food be dishonest? Could it be that something is added to it? But after witnessing Su Ran's washing and protection process, she became somewhat uncertain. To improve the feeding efficiency this time, the system will give the host the relevant knowledge of advanced nutrition of frost dust wolf race. As expected, it's different. As Su Ran prepared food for the frost dust wolf in the preparation room, his eyes lit up. With expectations, he noticed the difference for the first time. The word advanced was added. Advanced nutrition science should be more profound than the previous nutrition science, right? The knowledge that flowed into his mind confirmed Su Ran's guess. Taking a deep breath, Su Ran took out various resources and started preparing food for the frost dust wolf according to the newly acquired knowledge. A moment later, watching the frost dust wolf, whose eyes were misty, sitting on the highest point of the snowy knoll and sending out howls to the sky, its lonely character suddenly highlighted, and its face full of longing for its partner, Su Jiuju was dumbfounded. Indeed, as expected, the food that Boss Su feeds to fostered pet beasts is not normal. Looking at the food bowl which still had some food left, Su Jiuju casually picked up a small piece and put it into her mouth. It tastes like chicken, pretty crispy. It's surprisingly delicious. Looking at Su Jiuju, who was stealing dog food, Su Ran couldn't stop himself from rolling his eyes. Fortunately, these foods are harmless to humans, but you can't just eat them like this. Someone had completely forgotten his earlier taste of cat food. Looking at the pleasure value provided by the frost dust wolf during mealtime, which as expected had improved along with the progression of nutrition science knowledge, Su Ran coughed lightly. If there's nothing else, I'm going to feed the other pet beasts. He pointed at the food bowls next to him. These were prepared for the other pet beasts. No problem, you go, I'll feed my dog. Sujiuju walked cheerfully towards the frost dust wolf with a food bowl, while eating its food. From the looks of her, the frost dust wolf definitely couldn't be satiated this time. Of course, considering Sujiuju's food intake, it won't cause the frost dust wolf to starve, so it doesn't matter. Ignoring the one person and one pet, Su Ran quickly walked with the food bowls to the area where other pet beasts were fostered, and shouted loudly, "Dinner time!" A few breaths later, a group of pet beasts surrounded him, their eyes full of anticipation. "This is for armored rhinoceros." Su Ran handed the largest food bowl to the earliest resident of the foster shop, then grabbed another bowl. "This is for the fire monkey." A monkey-type pet beast bathed in flames agilely came forward, received the food bowl and began to feast. Soon, the food bowls for other pet beasts were also distributed one after another. While waiting for them to eat, watching the soaring pleasure values, Su Ran's expression also became pleasant. After the meal, Su Ran collected the food bowls and returned to his original place, noting Sujiuju still interacting with the frost dust wolf. His expression became somewhat strange, because their way of interacting was somewhat peculiar. The food bowl placed aside was already empty. This person and dog, ah no, one wolf hugging each other, rolled happily in the snow. Looking at Sujiuju's slightly petite body completely buried in the fluffy and soft fur of the frost dust wolf, Su Ran couldn't help but touch his chin. It seems quite comfortable. Xian's fur is also very smooth and fluffy, but it is too small. He had previously promised Xian to teach it reduction skill, but now it seems he can also consider the corresponding giantification skill, which makes it bigger. Sujiuju, noticing Su Ran watching her, wriggled out from underneath the soft belly of the frost dust wolf with a smirk. "Boss Su, my dog wants to try a sparring session." Chapter 111:90. You call this a training field? Su Ran blinked his eyes. From Sujiuju's previous reaction, he had assumed that she would be deterred by the price of the accompanying training service. He was wondering how to coax a client into experiencing the service, but surprisingly, Sujiuju changed her mind again. Of course, Sujiuju had her reasons for changing her mind. Previously, she was indeed deterred by the price. However, having witnessed firsthand the extraordinary washing and foster services of the Starfair foster care shop, Sujiuju inevitably became interested in the remaining accompanying training services. Since the price is 666 yuan per hour, trying for an hour wouldn't be a significant loss. If the results were satisfactory, Sujiuju would grit her teeth and manage to bear the training costs for her dog. If the results were not satisfactory, she would naturally discontinue the service. All right. Su Ran nodded heavily, anticipation gleaming in his eyes. He had already found the entrance to the training area. "Follow me." Waving at Sujiuju and the frost dust wolf, Su Ran headed towards another side of the foster area. After passing through the area, a striking underground entrance appeared before them. Unlike the underground entrance at the rear door, this looked more like a large elevator entrance. Upon entering the elevator, there were 10 different symbols on the side of the door, corresponding to 10 attributes. After choosing the ice attribute, the elevator began to descend. The feeling of weightlessness lasted only a moment, and before the two humans and one pet realized how deep they had fallen, the surrounding scenery had completely changed. Outside the elevator were rolling snow-covered mountains and glaciers in between them. They seemed to have been instantly transported to a snowfield, where the view was filled with endless snow everywhere. So, is this the second floor underground or even deeper? Well played, system. Su Ran casually praised, his face unruffled as he looked at the dumbfounded Sujiuju. "Welcome to the ice attribute training ground." You, do you call this a training ground? Sujiuju stepped out of the elevator and felt the cold air rushing towards her. She was stupefied. "Didn't you just transport us to a snowy mountain area directly?" Even a simpleton like Sujiuju could tell something was off. "There is no such technology, you're thinking too much." Su Ran calmly shook his head. "It's just spatial technology. These snowy mountains and everything else here are man-made." Armed with the explanation provided by the system, his confidence was much stronger. "That's amazing," Sujiuju seriously exclaimed and then asked, "So what exactly is your accompanying training service like? I want to train Frost Flower Path." Under normal circumstances, accompanying training services require customers to specify the target skill for training, and the service provider's duty is to supervise and assist in training. "All right, Frost Flower Path it is," Su-Ran nodded lightly, and a line of text appeared in front of his eyes. In order to improve the efficiency of this accompanying training, the system will grant the host the relevant knowledge of the Frost Flower Path Skill Training Guide. A single skill training guide. Su-Ran was slightly surprised. He initially thought the system organized accompanying training according to attributes. He didn't expect the system to be so detailed. However, with this in mind, a hint of delight appeared in his eyes. Does this mean he can use this method to freeload off his own pet beast skill training guide? As this idea occurred to him, a wealth of knowledge poured into his mind simultaneously. Just a training guide for Frost Flower Path was much richer in content than he had imagined. On top of the practical comparisons of various pet beasts demonstrating the Frost Flower Path, there are multiple training methods to improve the skill proficiency of Frost Flower Path. Depending on the pet beast species and the current training stage, there are different choices for training methods. Too bad this knowledge doesn't include the teaching method for Frost Flower Path skill, so it can't help those ice attribute pet beasts that don't have this skill master it. But with this guide, when a pet beast trains this skill, their efficiency will undoubtedly be significantly improved. Frost Dust Wolf. Su-Ran quickly picked out the most suitable training method for the Frost Dust Wolf's current condition from the abundant methods. "Let's go skiing next." After saying this, he walked towards the equipment warehouse near the entrance of the elevator, leaving a bewildered Su-Jiuju and Frost Dust Wolf behind. Skiing? What the hell? Before the two humans and one pet could regain their senses, Su-Ran had already hauled out a sled and 4 strange-looking big boots from the equipment warehouse. The boots were not compatible with human feet at all. Judging by the style and size, it seemed like they were prepared for the Frost Dust Wolf, and they were connected to the sled. Giving the Frost Dust Wolf boots to wear and pulling a sled, Su-Jiuju's expression became increasingly confused. This wasn't quite how she had imagined the accompanying training to go, was it? While she was still lost in her confusion, Su-Ran had already nimbly helped the Frost Dust Wolf put on its boots, wrapping all 4 of its snow-treading paws tightly. After getting on the sled, Su-Ran glanced at the still-shocked Su-Jiuju and patted the seat beside him. "Do you want to come up?" "Huh?" Su-Jiuju snapped out of her daze, looked at Su-Ran who was prepared to start and quickly called out, "Take me with you." Sitting next to Su-Ran, watching the boots-wearing, still visibly excited Frost Dust Wolf up ahead, Su-Jiuju's expression became complex. Kingju City was not a suitable habitat for ice attribute pet beasts. Here, the climate was mild in winter and cool in summer, and there might not be a snowfall for years. Therefore, there are few ice attribute pet beasts active here. Most of the ice attribute beasts owned by the beast masters in Kingju City were exchanged through certain channels from other regions. Although there were plenty of ice attribute areas created by transcendent power, these areas were at most similar to the snow mound that Su-Ran had constructed earlier. The wolf probably only saw real snow mountains shortly after it was born, right? Therefore, even when wearing uncomfortable boots, it was still very excited. Honestly, Su-Jiuju did not believe this method was genuinely beneficial to the Frost Flower Path skill, but watching the Frost Dust Wolf run wildly, howling loudly, and driving the sled quickly across the snowfields, she also let out excited screams along with it. It was, after all, time for it to have fun for once. As for Su-Jiuju's thoughts, Su-Ran, who sat beside her, was completely ignorant. If he knew, he would definitely cry out injustice. This is definitely a training method for the Frost Flower Path, just a little unconventional. But then again, it's normal for the system to do abnormal things. If the system was doing something normal, then that would indeed be abnormal. According to the training guide and analysis of the Frost Flower Path skill, the manifestation of this skill is to condense ice crystal flowers under the feet, but that's only a reflection of it. The core of it is the circulation of ice energy in a unique pattern beneath the feet, augmenting speed. The ice crystal flowers are merely an external manifestation of this rotation. The boots provided by the system, infused with a trace of fire attribute power, can suppress the circulation of ice power. Combined with the Frost Dust Wolf's discomfort with the boots, it greatly reduces the efficiency of its use of the Frost Flower Path. Moreover, it has to pull the sled. Just like weightlifting is a form of exercise, such suppression, if maintained for a long time, would surely step up the frost dust wolf's use of the frost flower path once unsealed. In addition, the vast transcendent ice power flowing in the surrounding ice-friendly environment, although not as effective as an energy potion in granting beasts endless power, can greatly speed up their recovery. This training might look unconventional, but it is as legitimate as it gets. Now this is what pranks are about. Pleasure value from Frost Dust Wolf, +5. Pleasure value from Frost Dust Wolf, +5. Pleasure value from. Seeing the continual pleasure value feedback from the Frost Dust Wolf, Su-Ran nodded slightly. Though running wildly on a snow mountain would consume its energy, for the Frost Dust Wolf, it was a process of absolute happiness. Pleasure value, piece of cake. Skill points from Frost Dust Wolf, +1. Su-Ran straightened up instantly. Here it comes. The skill points he had been eagerly waiting for were finally here. Smiling increasingly wider as he watched the occasional skill point notification, amidst all the pleasure value notifications, Su-Ran's face melted into a smile. 1 hour later. Jumping off the sled, Su-Jiujiu watched as the Frost Dust Wolf, now out of its boots, moved through the snowfields with greater speed than before. The wolf left behind blooming ice crystal flowers on the snowy ground as it moved, looking like a white ghost, which gradually left her mouth agape. Its proficiency truly improved, and the results were immediate. Chapter 112, 91 Full Energy Star. A bonus chapter for the Silver Alliance's rippling spring sounds, 710. Boss Su, can't you give it to me for a little less? Returning to the first floor of the Foster shop, Su-Jiujiu's face was full of a pained expression. I'm paying for 60 hours of training in one go. Our shop services are worth the price paid, Su-Ran answered seriously. I know your services are worth it, but... Su-Jiujiu wanted to argue a little, but Su-Ran cut her off quickly. Therefore, there will be no discount. Su-Jiujiu. Ah, this hateful profiteer. She couldn't help but roll her eyes, and without hesitation, she finished the payment using the QR code. Then, she turned her head towards the Frost Dust Wolf sticking its tongue out at her, and went to hug its large head. Good boy, I'm leaving. You stay here and behave. I'll summon you when I need you. I'll come and visit when I have time. Ayo Tilda, the Frost Dust Wolf gave a reluctant howl and licked Su-Jiujiu's cheek with its tongue. All right, I'm going. Su-Jiujiu gritted her teeth, restrained the reluctance in her heart, let go of the Frost Dust Wolf's soft fur, and turned to walk towards the shop door. Hey, are you going the wrong way? Seeing the direction Su-Jiujiu was heading towards, Su-Ran couldn't help but call out, the bus station is over there. Su-Jiujiu lives quite far from here, and after fostering the Frost Dust Wolf, she could only take the bus back right. I'm broke, I'll walk home. Su-Jiujiu hummed lowly, touched her empty pocket and walked a bit faster. Ah, this? Su-Ran's mouth twitched slightly. Was that necessary? The next second, seeing Su-Jiujiu take a detour as if nothing had happened and sneakily head towards the bus station, Su-Ran finally burst out laughing. What an interesting character. It wasn't until Su-Jiujiu's figure disappeared from sight that Su-Ran turned back to face the Frost Dust Wolf, which still wore a reluctant look on its face. Considering your current condition, I will set up a 2-hour training time for you every day. Su-Ran stroked its large head. In your other time, you'll be fine staying in the foster area. You can communicate with other residents, but you shouldn't fight. Ayo Tilda. The Frost Dust Wolf's eyes weren't too fierce. On the contrary, it seemed quite well behaved. It shook its head, and its fluffy ears swayed with a Duang Tilda sound. It had noticed earlier in the foster area that many of the other residents were elite beings, whom it simply couldn't beat. Fighting and killing were so unpleasant. Living in harmony was what mattered. Then I will send you back now. Su-Ran paused slightly in speech. Xian Star, you two come with me too. The training module is so magical, of course. Our pet beasts should not miss out. Also, Star and Xian are different. Star needs a more extensive field for daily running and galloping. The living area on the second floor of the shop is not suitable for its living conditions. It needs an area in the foster area designated exclusively for it. Before, Su-Ran was pondering on how much space to give Star. After all, the foster area was getting overcrowded with the increase of residents. There wasn't much space left. The area designated for his own pet beast couldn't be smaller than that of the foster care residents, could it? The expansion of the foster care space just solved his problem. Meow Tilda, Xian agilely jumped down from the counter and appeared by Su-Ran's feet. its face hinting at its urge to go. During Su Ran's conversation with Su Jiujiu, it had heard everything clearly. Su Ran had taken the Frost Dust Wolf to experience the shop's new accompanying training service. Combining what Su Ran had said previously, after the competition ended, he'd be able to add points to the skills, proficiency very soon. The smart Xian immediately guessed that the accompanying training service was the key to add proficiency to the skills. So can skills be enhanced soon? Zai-Lu-Lu. Star snorted, its eyes also filled with excitement. However, its excitement was somewhat different from Xian's. Su Ran had said earlier that it would be staying in the foster area tonight. Now that he's taking it down there, could it be that they were going to the place where it would stay tonight? It should be more spacious than the stables prepared for it at the Mount Beast breeding base, right? Two pet beasts, each with different expectations, faithfully followed behind Su Ran. After returning the Frost Dust Wolf to its designated foster area, Su Ran caressed Star's long mane, then touched a few buttons on the control hub. In an instant, an area that occupied a full 1/10 of the total foster site, which was 10 times the size of the previous foster site, lost all artificial light. In its place was a rising artificial crescent moon and even stars scattered across the sky. It was an artificial night, but it was almost real. Zai-Lu-Lu. Star's eyes, which were like purple crystals, suddenly lit up. Looking at the vast dark area, anticipation and a bit of apprehension filled its eyes. You guessed right, this area is all yours. Through the strengthened contractual sensing, Su Ran captured the source of its unrest and gently addressed it. The apprehension in Star's eyes disappeared instantly and was replaced by unparalleled excitement. This area was much larger than the entire Mount Beast breeding base. Although the Mount Beast breeding base was large, it had to share it with hundreds of companions. But at this moment, it could monopolize such a big space. Star neighed and quickly ran towards the night. The night's song instantly activated, and as the pitch-dark runes moved around its body, it seemed to completely merge with the darkness. Like a fish in water, it moved freely. Squinting at the elusive shadow flashing through the darkness, Su Ran's face revealed a hint of a smile. He stood quietly at the edge of the dark area. Chapter 113, 91 Full Energy Star. At his feet, Xian sat quietly with her pair of differently colored eyes, easily finding the stars in the dark night sky. It held no envy towards its younger brother having such a large area, only felt happy for Star. After all, it could sleep with the Beast Master, something the younger one could never enjoy due to its size and habits. Soon, Star, who was enjoying his frolic, came running back to Su Ran, its head affectionately rubbing against his cheek, indicating its joy. "I'm glad you like it." Su Ran nodded slightly, and the smile on his face gradually faded, looking a bit serious. "Right now, you're only at the transcendent stage. Xian, who contracted with me earlier, has already reached the elite stage. Your father, Chasing Wind, is also at the elite stage. If you want to run faster, you also need to quickly upgrade to the elite stage, or even reach higher realms in the future." Meow tilde. Xian on the side nodded in agreement, and released a bit of her own elite stage aura. Feeling the strong aura of its older sister and hearing Su Ran's words, Star's initially restless heart, after becoming a transcendent being, gradually calmed down. That's right, becoming a transcendent being is merely the first step. It can become even stronger and run even faster. "Zai-Lu-Lu, what should I do?" Star, full of vigor, let out a cry. His eyes, like purple crystals, seemed to be burning with flames. Seeing this, Su Ran nodded with satisfaction. Very good. Having contracted pet beasts, he naturally wouldn't raise them for free. Given Star's immense talent, it couldn't be wasted. Therefore, urging it to train and become stronger must be made a priority. "The answer is training," Su Ran said seriously. "Only through continuous hard training will you become stronger. Every single one of your skills can increase in proficiency through training. At the current Stardust level, when your proficiency reaches a certain level, the skills will be upgraded to the Starlight level and undergo a qualitative change. After the Starlight level, there are higher proficiency levels, but you don't need to worry about that now. Your goal now is to upgrade all your skills to the Starlight level through continuous training. Once you reach this goal, your power will increase significantly. It will then be time for you to break through in your growth stage to the elite stage. Xian is currently at the stage where all her skills have reached the Starlight level. When you reach this stage, you can be as powerful as her. So keep at it. Zylulu, I want to train. Having his future painted by Su Ran ignited all of Star's passion. Fire was seen burning in its eyes. It let out an excited cry, unable to wait to start training. Then let's set off now, Su Ran bellowed, his smile becoming wider. He had his own ideas about raising pet beasts. He wouldn't favor any of his pet beasts, but giving newly contracted Star the same amount of resources as Zeon was obviously inappropriate. Appropriately teaching plucking fur to gain skills would not affect Zeon's advancement, but the skill points and skill fusion stones that both could obtain needed to be carefully allocated. Previously, Zeon had improved all her skills to starlight level through her own efforts. Star should at least strive to achieve this before he could enjoy the treatment of getting extra points. In the meantime, Star could be provided with the energy-abundant potion similar to what was done during Zeon's initial training days. About skill fusion. Su Ran currently had 7 skill fusion stones and a new system feature to exchange specified skills, recycling. He wanted to first attempt to upgrade one of Zeon's skills to 3 stars through fusion and see what happens. So the fusion of Star's skills is not urgent for now. Even so, Star's current treatment is much better than Zeon's at first. At that time, using energy-abundant potion was very stingy. Now, there are enough potions for Star to squander freely. Moreover, Star's upcoming training will take place in the training area, which is much better than Zeon's initial training environment. Following Su Ran through the foster area, both pet beasts spotted another entrance wrapped in a light film. This is the entrance to the training area. No one can enter without my permission. Su Ran explained, pressing a few buttons on the control hub. I have given both of you the authority to enter and exit freely, so you can enter when you want. Let's go, I'll take you two to have a look. Leading the 2 curious pets, Su Ran entered the elevator-like entrance again. This is the dark attribute, and this is the thunder attribute. He pointed to the symbols corresponding to the dark attribute and the thunder attribute. If you want to train in the corresponding areas, just press on the corresponding button. After saying this, Su Ran first pressed the dark attribute button. The familiar sensation of weightlessness came in an instant, and in a breath, the surroundings changed drastically. Outside the elevator was a tranquil and serene night, devoid of any sound. The bright moonlight and stars enshrouded the unevenly undulating grassland under their feet, and the contours of the dense forest in the distance. Zylulu Tilda. Starchin let out an excited neigh, the sound echoing in the night. Unlike the dark area where it resides, the night here is as real as it can be. It could sense a tremendous sense of dark power pervading every inch of the surrounding area. You can only stay in this training space for a maximum of 6 hours a day, Su Ran softly began. If you exceed the time limit, you will be forcibly sent back to the foster area, and you can only re-enter the next day. If it weren't for this restriction, I would actually prefer you to live here, Su Ran shrugged. It's a more suitable place for your growth and improvement. In the future, you can stay here for 6 hours a day, then go back. Meow Tilda. Starchin nodded excitedly in understanding. It would give anything to stay in such an environment all the time, and certainly would not waste a minute. All right, now I'll teach you how to train, Su Ran smiled, brainstorming as the system's prompt duly arrived. In order to improve the efficiency of this accompanied training session, the system will impart to the host the related knowledge of the Twilight Watch Skill Training Guide. In order to improve, Twilight Watch, Star Chain, Night Eyes, Night Song, Nightfall, Tenacity. The training guides for 5 2-star skills and 1 1-star skill instantly flooded Su Ran's mind, the sheer volume of information making his temples throb slightly. However, at the same time, his heart was filled with excitement. As expected, the idea of getting the training guides for free was feasible. After digesting this content, Su Ran turned and walked toward the training equipment warehouse. Let's start with Twilight Watch. All right, now you just train these 6 skills according to the way I just taught. Meow. Starchin nodded vigorously, keeping the Beast Master's guidance firmly in mind. This is a key factor for it to become stronger. This is a special drink that can keep you energized for 3 consecutive hours. Su Ran pulled out a whopping 7 bottles of energy-abundant potion, placing them in a corner of the training equipment warehouse. You already have the skill tenacity, and the transcendent power in this environment is denser, plus this potion, enough to undergo 6 hours of training. So don't drink too much, 1 bottle a day is enough. Starchin didn't speak, but walked directly to the energy-abundant potion bottle, holding the bottle firmly with its two front hooves and biting off the stopper at the mouth of the bottle. Poof tilde dang 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 tilde. Watching Starchin disappear into the night and start to use every second of its invaluable 6 hours of training, Su-ran patted Zeon, who was quietly sitting beside him. Next, it's your turn. Meow tilde, add points add points. Expectancy filled Zeon's eyes. Host Su-ran. Contract power, second stage. Contract pet beasts. Zeon view details. Starchin view details. System skills. Plucking fur sea level, 57-100. Drug application sea level, 3-500. Pranks D level, 1-100. Pet beast skill, none. Physical point, 94 available. Skill points 10 available. Pleasure value, 15,123. System upgrade experience, 0-2000. The 1-hour training for the Frost Dust Wolf gained 1 point of prank experience and 10 skill points, plus the 94 physical points gained from the previous feeding session. Add points intensively. Chapter 114-92, Fusion 3-star skill. After adding physical points, Zeon's growth stage progressed from the initial 5687 to 5781, taking a small step towards the upper limit of 20,000. Next were the 10 skill points. The difference between adding points to physique and skills became evident at this time. Add points to physique. Su-ran didn't need to hesitate because there was only one choice. But Zeon has a total of 5 skills. Each skill can be added points. This involves the issue of skill point distribution. After some consideration, Su-ran diverted his gaze from the other 3 skills and landed on the Thunder Roar and Electric Pursue skills. These 2 skills were closer to 3 stars. According to the previous plan, Su-ran wanted to try to acquire a 3-star skill through fusion first, so these 2 skills had a higher priority for adding points. Among these 2 skills, Thunder Roar had a higher priority than Electric Pursue. Although Electric Pursue also has a certain damage output, it's mainly used for significant speed increase. Zeon's speed was already not weak, but the output was still not good enough. In Su-ran's simple thought, if he can't kill the same stage with 1 strike, the output isn't good enough. When Zeon was at the Transcendent stage and fought against Frost Dust Wolf, it took 2 Thunder Roars, and it got injured when it encountered a stronger Dark-Scale dragon. Therefore, the output needed to be increased. Thunder Roar was a pure output skill. If it could be upgraded to 3 stars, Zeon's strength would certainly increase significantly. So, without hesitation, Su-ran directly added all the skill points to Thunder Roar. Contract pet beast, Zeon. Race name, Electric Chasing Cat. Attribute, Thunder Attribute. Growth stage, Elite stage, 5,781/20,000 plus. Species stage, Leader species. Skills, Thunder Roar Starlight level, 92/500 plus. Electric Pursue Starlight level, 91/500 plus. Battle Instinct Starlight level, 33/500 plus. Self-Healing Power Starlight level, 24/500 plus. Blood Fury Starlight level, 40/500 plus. Meow. With Su-ran's addition of points, Zeon suddenly shuddered all over. As a Thunder attribute pet beast, it actually felt like it had been electrocuted at this moment, and the sensation flashed by quickly, and then Zeon suddenly felt something more in its mind. This feeling was slightly similar to acquiring a skill, but what appeared in its mind was different. When acquiring a skill, what appears in Zeon's mind were images of various different transcendent beings using the skill, most of which were entities that Zeon had never encountered before. These images would pop up one after another, eventually converging into the commonalities of the skill, allowing it to comprehend in an instant how to use the skill. At this moment, there was also an image in Zeon's mind, but the main character in the image was Zeon itself. Once, twice, tens of times, hundreds of times. In the images, it unleashed Thunder Roar under various circumstances. All these experiences turned into Zeon's own experience of using Thunder Roar as if it had experienced so many training sessions, thus enhancing the proficiency of the skill. This kind of feeling. The colorful eyes of Zeon gradually widened. This was the feeling of being lazy without completely being lazy. Let's go, we're heading to the Thunder training area. Ran glanced at the stars disappearing into the night and turned and walked towards the elevator entrance. He had another task to do. That was to use the already decomposed skill fragments to exchange for a 2-star skill suitable for fusion with Thunder Roar, and attempt to fuse it again to see if he could acquire a 3-star skill. If he was really successful, then the Thunder training area would be the best testing ground. Meow tilde fine. Xian's eyes brightened. Although the skill points gave it a sense of skill proficiency, it was still the first time it had received this. To validate whether this added point was effective, Xian needed to verify it through practice. It believes that the purpose of Beast Master taking it to the Thunder training area is exactly that. Was it a reminder that even if it gained points without labor, it shouldn't indulge in this behavior and needed to digest it through real training? It got it. Ran, who entered the elevator, glanced at Xian following closely behind him. Why was this little guy so eager? But it was a good thing. He was worried that adding points would cause Xian to lose the motivation to work hard, but now it seems that this little guy had a good attitude. Ran raised his hand and pressed the button with the symbol of Thunder attribute. After a brief weightlessness, the scene around him changed again. The deep darkness disappeared, but the light did not come yet. The oppressively dense thunder clouds covered everything in the area, like a hand covering the palm from the sky. In the ink-colored cloud masses, purple electric arcs lurking like spiritual snakes. Occasionally, a thunderbolt fell, reducing the exposed stones below to dust. The entire region was filled with extremely strong thunder element. As soon as he stepped in, Ran's hair stood up like an explosion. Is it so amazing? Even Ran was taken aback by the spectacular sight of this area. He almost doubted whether everything in this area was real. Meow tilde. Xian held up its head high, looking at the dancing thunder snakes in the sky. Its eyes showed a trace of reminiscence. From its memories, when it was a stray cat and encountered thunderous weather, it would curl up in the corner of the street, trembling helplessly at the thunderous sound. Fortunately, that's not the case now. It's already a transcendent being, and also a thunder attribute transcendent being. Chapter 115-92, Fusion 3-star skill. It now holds the power to control thunder and lightning. Even the heavenly thunder, it could control in the future. Thinking about it caused Xian's heart to surge with pride. Meow tilde, let me start training now. It couldn't wait to become stronger. Training, wait a moment. Ran looked at Xian in surprise. He had no idea why looking at the sky had made this little guy more enthusiastic about training. Training was a given, but first, they had to work on skill fusion. He once again activated the recycling function and noticed the balance of 55 skill fragments in the corner of the recycling interface. He initially thought this balance was a substantial amount, but then after looking at the skill exchange list, it felt like he had nothing. They only had enough to swap for 1 2-star skill and 1 1-star skill, or 5 1-star skills. He hoped that would be enough to make Thunder Roar a 3-star skill. Ran sighed softly, then started to look through the list of 2-star Thunder attribute skills. The skill exchange list of the recycling function has one not bad feature. That is, you can directly select one or more skills a pet beast already possesses, and check the fusion probability of the skills in the list with the selected skills. A really user-friendly feature. Of course, it wasn't entirely user-friendly. After looking through an entire page, none of the skills had a greater than 1% fusion success rate with Thunder Roar. Ran sighed helplessly and moved to the next page. No good. No good. Still no good. After an unknown amount of time, Ran looked through all available 2-stars Thunder attribute skills that could be exchanged. The highest fusion probability was only 3.1%. He didn't believe that none of these Thunder attribute skills were suitable for Thunder Roar. The reason these skills, fusion probabilities were so low was probably because Thunder Roar itself was a fused skill. To fuse it again meant combining Electric Spark, War Roar, and a new skill, 3 2-star skills, into one fusion. Ran had never tried to fuse 3 skills together, but out of curiosity, he previously selected Xian's Electric Spark, Electric Arc, and Battle Instinct with a skill fusion stone. The displayed fusion success probability was less than 1 in 1,000. While the compatibility of the skills was a factor, it proved that the more skills combined, the lower the probability of successful fusion, and the rate of decrease was geometric. Therefore, even step-by-step fusion didn't look promising for Thunder Roar. Meow, what's wrong? Seeing Su Ran's slowly sinking face, Xian cocked its head slightly in confusion. It's nothing. Su Ran took a deep breath, knelt down and stroked Xian's head and elaborated. You heard Senior Gu talk about the rules of evolution. I hope to fuse Thunder Roar with another 2-star skill, so that you can have a 3-star skill. Meow, did washing and protection obtain a new 2-star skill? Upon hearing Su Ran's words, Xian's first reaction was to ask this, and it asked with genuine curiosity. No. Su Ran shook his head and explained the recycling function in a way that Xian could understand. Anyway, right now, I can choose any 2-star skill to fuse with Thunder Roar, but all have a low probability. He had 7 skill fusion stones, but it was uncertain whether they could achieve fusion given such low probabilities. The pleasure value required to draw a lottery had increased tenfold, and he only had enough balance for 1 draw. Although the rate at which pleasure value accumulated had increased, it was still difficult to get more skill fusion stones in a short time. So it'd be better to find a 2-star skill with a higher success rate. His lower limit was a fusion probability of 5%. After hearing Su Ran's words, Xian blinked. So, as long as a beast master's washing and protection achieved a sufficient level, it could teach it any skill. Thunder Roar had low fusion probabilities with all thunder attribute skills. If that's the case, Meow Tilda, why not try the 2-star skills without attributes? Xian took a moment to seriously consider, then cutely tilted its head. Emma? Su Ran's eyes lit up. Yes. Apart from thunder attribute skills, Xian could also teach skills without any attributes. These types of skills were known as common skills, and a pet beast of any attribute could potentially learn them naturally or through training. After being reminded by Xian, Su Ran suddenly realized that one of the skills fused to create Thunder Roar, War Roar, was indeed a 2-star's common skill. Could it be that Thunder Roar has a higher compatibility rate with common skills? With that in mind, Su Ran didn't hesitate to open the tutorial page for the common skills, flipping through them one by one. Moments later, Su Ran's scrolling hand halted. There really is one. A 2-star skill called Roar, which has a 5.2% fusion success rate with Thunder Roar. No, wait a bit more. Su Ran looked at the 2/3 of the common skills he hadn't checked yet, like a treasure trove. Maybe there might be a higher one, be patient. He flipped through each one, until he finished with the last page of the 2-star common skill exchange list. And then, page 43. He muttered under his breath, instantly flipping the list back to a middle page, then fixed his gaze on one skill. After flipping through everything, he was sure this was the skill most suitable for merging with Thunder Roar. 2-star skill, Sound Wave. The effect of this skill is to use sonar-like sound waves for large area detection. This simple skill is 2 stars because the detection range is really large, and under the same starlight level proficiency as Thunder Roar, its detection diameter is 5 times that of Thunder Roar. If Su Ran was not looking at the fusion success rate, he would never consider this skill as it doesn't seem to have a lot to do with Thunder Roar. What's more, it has no attacking power, and Su Ran hopes for Thunder Roar to transform into a more powerful skill after fusion. However, the system clearly tells him with an 8.2% initial success rate that this is the skill most suited to Thunder Roar. So should he choose this, or choose other skills that could potentially enhance Thunder Roar's power but have a lower probability of fusion? Su Ran only hesitated for a moment before making his decision. Let's go for this one. Even though he hasn't figured out much of the pattern of skill fusion, but one thing he's sure is that he would continue to fuse skills into Thunder Roar in the future. 3 stars are not the end for the skill, initially meant for Electric Spark. Later fusions will inevitably be more difficult, so choosing the most suitable skill each time might be the key to ongoing fusion. Confirmed exchange for Sound Wave. Su Ran, who had made up his mind, acted swiftly. Exchange tutorial fusion. First time, second time, third time. 8.2%, 11.3%, 14.6%. Su Ran clearly felt that the success rate increased less after each failed fusion, but once the arrow was drawn, it had to be let fly. Since he chose skill fusion, he could only go ahead, otherwise all efforts would be wasted. Finally, on the 6th try. Fusion success. Looking at the words that popped up, Su Ran let out a heavy sigh. Having one left is already quite good. He immediately opened Xian's interface and looked at a brand new skill that replaced Thunder Roar in the skill bar. Thunder Shake Heavenly Sound Starlight Level, 92-500 plus. 3 stars. Su Ran was silent for a moment, then he burst into laughter amidst the thunderstorm. Success. It really worked. With skill fusion, Xian, as a leader species, mastered a 3-star skill that can only be used by a king species. Moreover, it's a talent skill. This means that when Xian evolves into a king species, there will be one less threshold. At this moment, Xian was also surprised. Unlike Su Ran, who has a system panel, it couldn't clearly judge the star level of the newly mastered skill called Thunder Shake Heavenly Sound. But it could feel that after the birth of this skill, the heavy chains that seemed to bind its body were shattered, and it felt a sense of comfort from the deepest part of its body. It took the most solid step towards a higher life level. Something unseen has already changed. Come on, Xian, let's try out the power of the new skill. Su Ran pointed to the thunderstorm land fiercely. Though Thunder Roar was merged with the non-injurious skill Sound Wave, whether there is an increase in power of Thunder Shake Heavenly Sound, we'll only find out by trying. Meow, okay. Chapter 116-93, New Skills and New Plans. Step tilde. With a light leap, it reaches the top of the hill in front of eyes. Purple halos flow in the pair of strange eyes of Xian. Countless electric arcs travel around its body and eventually pour into the earth. Boom! A thunderous roar sounds. A sky thunder bursts from the gloomy thunder cloud in the sky towards the ground, tearing the dim sky apart and illuminating the slender silhouette of Xian. Get ready, start. Su Ran, watching this scene from 100 meters away, can't help but feel a bit nervous. The leader species is showing the 3-star skill. This probably never happened before, right? He doesn't even know what a spectacular scene that would be. Xian, who heard Su Ran's words through contractual sensing, gave a firm look in this direction from afar, then quickly raised his head. Meow! A long and majestic sound, centered on Xian, instantly spreads to the distance, like it's amplified by a device, so Su Ran can still hear it very clearly even 100 meters away. The next moment, an abrupt change occurs. Zzzt. Accompanied by the sound of continuous electric arcs piercing the air, in the gradually widening eyes of Su Ran, horrific thunderbolts exploded instantaneously within a range of 100 meters, taking Xian as the center. They are wandering, they are interweaving. Minor electric arcs merge into a thicker one, and the thicker ones shatter at any time, splitting into minor arcs. The electric light, reflecting everything in front of Su Ran. That is, a sea of thunder and lightning with a radius of 100 meters. 3-star skill, Starlight Level Thunder Shake Heavenly Sound. After several breaths, this sea of thunder gradually dissipates, but electric arcs are still constantly wandering in all the areas previously covered, demonstrating its magnificent power. Meow tilde, Xian's figure is as swift as an electric current. It teleports back to Su Ran at once. It's a little dejected because of the previous outburst, but its excitement is particularly clear in its eyes. Awesome! Su Ran's face is also excited. He hugs Xian, who pounces on him, with a trace of admiration, looking at the area covered by Thunder Shake Heavenly Sound. Is this the power of a 3-star skill? This is more than 1.5 stars stronger than the previous Thunder Roar. Thunder Roar could only cover a conical area within a radius of 20 meters, while Thunder Shake Heavenly Sound now covers a spherical area within a radius of 100 meters, even including the ground and high air. As long as it is within 100 meters of Xian, it can be hit instantly. It's really rare to have such a large attack range at the starlight level. In addition, Su Ran can feel with his naked eyes that the intensity of the strike is also much stronger than Thunder Roar. He has a feeling that if he steps into the sea of thunder and lightning just now, he may instantly turn into charcoal. From the electric arcs that are still permeating from the ground, you can see that this skill also has certain continuous damage. As for how much, it needs an actual opponent to be estimated. Of course, such a powerful skill is not completely flawless. From Xian's current state, you can see that the casting of Thunder Shake Heavenly Sound consumes a lot from it. So this skill cannot be released as frequently as Thunder Roar. For now, it can only be used as a decisive critical skill. Drink this. Su Ran took out a bottle of energy-abundant potion and handed it to Xian, Then I will guide you to train. Meow tilde, no problem. Xian skillfully took the energy-abundant potion, held the bottle with its two front paws, bit the bottle mouth and slightly exerted force. Accompanied by a pop sound, the energy-abundant potion was easily opened and was consumed between its breaths. After it consumed so much from casting thunder shake heavenly sound just now, it anticipated that it would need a lot of energy-abundant potion for the following training of this skill. Okay, let me tell you how to train your skills. Su Ran started with a smile and had a thought in his heart. In order to improve the efficiency of this sparring practice, the system will grant the host the related knowledge of Thunder Shake Heavenly Sound Skill Training Guide. In order to improve Thunder Shake Heavenly Sound, Electric Pursue, Battle Instinct, Self-Healing Power, Blood Fury. Like Star, all of Xian's skills also have the corresponding training guides. Next, under Su Ran's guidance, the training efficiency can be greatly improved. Moreover, looking at Xian's current 1-star self-healing power and blood fury skills, Su Ran shows a thoughtful expression. Although the star levels of these two skills are not high, they have helped Xian a lot in the past. Xian works hard in training, so getting injured is inevitable, and the burst of blood fury can also play a decisive role in a crucial moment, such as the final champion battle of the challenge match. Previously, there were no conditions, and the skills that Su Ran obtained were not suitable for Xian. Now that it has a recycling function, as long as there are enough skill fragments, you can exchange skills to merge with these two skills to get stronger skills. At least should they be upgraded to 2 stars. 2 1-star skills can be blended into a 2-star skill. This way, it only needs 20 skill fragments, which is acceptable. The tenacity skill of Star also needs to be improved in the future. Speaking of it, Liu Gu's Wind Lion Dog often comes for washing and protection, but after that one time at the beginning, Sea Wave Flower has not been washed and protected. After all, this guy is very clean and doesn't get itself dirty easily. We need to find a way to let it get washed and protected again, and see if we can get a self-healing power for Star as well. This skill hasn't been found on other pet beasts that have been washed and protected, so it should be quite rare. Chapter 117, 93 New Skills and New Plan. Shaking off his scattered thoughts, Su Ran took out various equipment from the training equipment warehouse next to him, all custom-made by the system for Xian. Under his guidance, Xian quickly grasped how to use these new training method to enhance the proficiency of its 5 skills. Thinking about the power of the strike just now, Xian couldn't wait to start. All right, you two keep the good work. Su Ran checked the time. I'll come to pick you and Star up in 6 hours. It doesn't have to be all training. Remember to balance work and rest. Thinking of how exhausted Xian would be after each 3-hour training session, Su Ran reminded it. Well, Star didn't need this advice, it had tenacity. Naturally, Xian had no objections to Su Ran's arrangement, but upon hearing Su Ran mention Star, it suddenly remembered something. Meow tilde. Star saw the washing and protection of the frost dust wolf and also wants you to do the same for it. Really? Su Ran slapped his own forehead. Good thing you reminded me, I almost forget. I should give it a washing and protection too. How could a new member just arrived home not experience the joy of cleaning and caring? Meow tilde. Hearing Su Ran's words, Xian immediately displayed an expression that read, "This home's falling apart without me sooner or later." Omega Tyletary 05. Then let's clean Star after its training is finished. After checking Xian's training for a while and confirming that it had thoroughly mastered the new prank's training method, Su Ran quickly turned around and left, heading back to the shop on the first floor. As the reputation of the shop was firmly established, business at the Starfair foster care shop started to boom. Not long after Su Ran opened the shop door, a tall and thin man carrying a fluffy pet beast walked in. As soon as he stepped in, the tall man scrutinized the entire Starfair foster care shop with slightly inspecting eyes. When his gaze fell on the price menus of Starfair foster care shop, especially the newly added ones, a noticeable astonishment flashed across his eyes. Welcome. Su Ran, who had barely warmed his seat, got up with an unchanged expression, walked up to the man and glanced at the pet beast in his arms. It was a round roll of a creature, where its head and body were indistinguishable. It looked like a soft golden cushion. It had fine fur on its body, but at first glance its fur was almost invisible. Its matte texture looked more like an oversized machi. Seemingly sensing Su Ran's gaze, This little creature squirmed in the man's arms, its two eyes full of curiosity as they twinkled at Su-Ran. With that squirm, Su-Ran recognized where it was from. Light attribute pet beast, bright group. What services do you need? Our shop has. Su-Ran's gaze shifted from the bright group to the gaunt man's face. He was about to introduce the services of the shop, but was interrupted by a wave of the man's hand. I want you to clean and care for this bright group. The man stated his needs, then paused slightly. Is that all right? Of course, that's no problem. Su-Ran nodded slightly, his gaze returning to the bright group. Appraisal time. Race name, bright group. Attribute, light attribute. Growth stage, transcendent stage. Body type, small size. Washing and protection requirements. Evaluation, a pet beast that happens to need cleaning and caring. Behind this coincidence, there may be a deeper secret. However, all secrets will be shattered under the magical hands of the host. Why is this evaluation so cryptic? Su-Ran couldn't help but comment in his heart. Then he spoke. I'll take it to the grooming room now. Would you like to accompany me or wait outside? I choose to accompany you. The tall man's eyebrows furrowed from the moment Su-Ran readily agreed, and they deepened at his question. He didn't recognize me, and he even offered to let me watch the caring process. If that's the case, I won't hold back. Fang Liming handed the bright group in his hands to Su-Ran and followed him into the grooming room. He was curious to see what makes this suddenly appeared shop, with its outrageous prices, yet able to attract a lot of his customers, so special. Fang Liming stopped at the entrance of the grooming room. He was flabbergasted at the vast space inside. This is the grooming place. It's so big. As the owner of the Dawn Foster store, which is widely recognized as the #1 pet grooming shop in Kingju City, he takes great pride in the fact that his shop is the only one in the city that can provide grooming services for super large pet beasts. Therefore, upon seeing Su-Ran's shop also offering grooming services for super large pet beasts, he, who had initially come with an inquisitive intent, now had a mind for comparison. From the outside, the shop looks so small. It's impossible for it to accommodate super large pet beasts for grooming. So why is its internal space so ridiculously large? The grooming area in his own shop prepared for super large pet beasts is only half as big as this. And although it claims to provide grooming service for super large pet beasts, in reality, it can only accommodate those of a smaller size. Those that reach the maximum limit of super large pet beasts, that is, the beasts with a body length of 30 meters, still can't be groomed in their shop. How could such a shop, seemingly not that big, have such an enormous space? Could it be? Fang Liming widened his eyes, considering a particular possibility. From the bragging of another friend who had seen the world, he learned about a special technique that could enlarge space. This technique was used by the Beast Master Association to collect special and precious items. At the moment, the space was clearly bigger than what was perceived from outside. Could it be employing a similar technique? But to use such a technique in grooming, that kind of space-expanding technique, every expansion requires a cost much more than building something in reality, and what it costs is not money, but various precious resources. What's the deal with the owner of this shop? You can sit over here. The noise Su-Ran made, while moving the stool, snapped Fang, Liming back to his senses. He nodded silently, sitting in his position, watching Su-Ran's movements. Upon entering the grooming room and being hit with this shock, his previous subtle intentions disappeared quietly. Anyone who could use that technique was not someone he could contend with. But when it comes to grooming, the final judgment lies in the grooming results. If this guy's grooming effect is not good, everything is useless. The bright group is an elemental pet beast, but unlike elemental pet beasts, its body has tiny hairs, and there is a clear boundary between its insides and outsides. However, dirt can easily seep into the body from the surface. It's very challenging to groom it. Simply cleaning the surface isn't enough. The interior of the bright group needs to be cleaned in a special way as well. We can easily find out if this guy has any skills during the grooming session. You little one, all your dirt is inside, huh? After receiving the advanced grooming knowledge from the system, Su-Ran took out a flashlight and shined it on the body of the bright group. The bright group's opaque body turned semi-transparent under the strong light. As an elemental pet beast, the bright group doesn't have organs like viscera, but under the light, you can see a small amount of murky shadows. That is the dirt hidden in its body. The grooming of the bright group, being an elemental pet beast, is much more difficult than the sea wave flower. After all, the sea wave flower itself is like a stack of petals that can be directly cleaned inside by peeling off the petal-like tissues. But the bright group has a clear boundary between the inside and outside of its body, making it impossible to clean it in such a way. The method to groom it is rather challenging, but it's quite stress-relieving. After fixing a number of high-intensity lamps around the bright group to make it semi-transparent from all angles, Su-Ran began to mix the bath dew. This time it won't be a rinse. Su-Ran quickly mixed a slightly viscous pale gold bath gel, and then used a brush to gently apply it to every inch of the bright group's body surface. The bright group gently trembled. It, who had been silent all along, ceased its limp state the moment the brush gently swept across its body, evenly spreading the viscous and warm bath gel. Its body tensed up, quickly transforming from a puddle on the grooming platform to a solid ball shape, like an inflated basketball, greatly increasing the elasticity of its body surface. Pleasure value from bright group plus 13. Pleasure value from bright group plus 13. From Chapter 118-94, Time for Pranks. Extra Chapter 810 for Silver Springs Play. Watching the current state of the bright group, Fang Liming's eyes narrowed slightly. He brought this bright group here, so he certainly would not be unfamiliar with it. The bright group, as a species, has a unique way of expressing emotions. Under ordinary circumstances, its body will relax, giving an overall soft and droopy vibe. However, during significant emotional fluctuations, it will quickly tighten its body, presenting a complete spherical shape and dramatically increase its surface elasticity. This state is called the spherification of the bright group. A bright group feeling comfortable during the washing and care process will likewise go into spherification. Fang Liming had observed this when he had cared for it in the past. But so quickly, the bath gel being applied to its body has already caused such significant emotional fluctuations. With a lingering hint of doubt and curiosity in his eyes, he turned his attention to the light golden gel in Su-Ran's hands. However, despite looking for a long time, he could not discern anything. While Fang Liming was observing, Su-Ran had already thoroughly scrubbed the whole body of the bright group. At this moment, each strand of fine fluff on the bright group's body was evenly enveloped in the light golden gel. Immediately afterward, Su-Ran put down the bath gel, took off his gloves, and started rubbing his hands together. Huh? Fang Liming was confused. What is he preparing to do? In his understanding, the way to give the bright group a wash and care was to apply the light attribute pet beast-appropriate gel on it, and then gently patting its body, causing the dirt inside it to slowly move and be absorbed by the gel. It appears there is no need to do what Su-Ran is doing. The suddenly loud sound from the bright group abruptly interrupted Fang Liming's thoughts. Watching Su-Ran's movements, Fang Liming's eyes widened in surprise. Su-Ran placed one hand firmly on the bright group, while the other hand was tightly clenched into a fist, pushing down hard onto the bright group's body. Under Su-Ran's force, the bright group, which in its spherification state had elasticity comparable to a basketball, easily deformed. Its body surface bore a visible dent where it made contact with Su's fist, changing into the shape of a gold ingot over time. The ecstatic cries of the bright group kept coming, but the voice contained no pain, only excitement. Pleasure value from bright group plus 25. Pleasure value from bright group plus 25. Pleasure value from. Seeing how Su-Ran's fist had released the bright group, which returned to its spherical shape instantly, with the entire darkened area that had been in contact with the fist now showing a large amount of dirt, much more efficient than gentle patting, Fang Liming fell silent. Is this another way of bathing and nurturing? He felt enlightened. However, his enthusiasm lasted only for a moment. He quickly realized that this method of bathing and nurturing required a strong force from the caretaker, which not everyone could accomplish. After the punch press, Su-Ran washed off the previous gel and reapplied the new one onto the bright group. Opening his palms, he placed them on both sides of the bright group's body. His fingers alternately pressed down in a rhythmic pattern. His movement seemed gentle but carried a significant force. Every time his fingers pressed down, a part of the bright group's body would protrude out from under his fingers, which then returned to its original shape as soon as Su-Ran lifted his fingers. The dirt that wasn't cleaned off in the previous step started to slowly emerge from within the bright group's body under the delicate kneading of this step. After cleaning again, providing surface maintenance and applying the essence. The bathing and nurturing process was carried out in an orderly manner. Fang Liming's expression was continually changing as he observed Su Ran's actions throughout. When the fully bathed and nurtured bright group was handed back to him, Fang Liming was completely silent. Meeting the pure-colored bright group under the bright lamp resembled a light ball. Each strand of its golden fluff was incredibly smooth and reflected light under the lamp. Even after the treatment, it remained spherified due to the delight it was experiencing. Fang Liming had to admit that the bathing and nurturing services provided by this shop were far superior than his own. "Boss Su, your skills are impressive. I, Fang Liming, am impressed." Flaunting a somewhat lofty demeanor, Fang Liming, holding the newly revitalized bright group, turned and left. Impressed? Looking at the strangely toned customer, Su Ran displayed a perplexed expression on his face. But since the person had already gone far, he didn't bother to pursue the matter. Throughout the process, he didn't recognize Fang Liming's identity. After all, he was unaware of the status of other foster shops in Qingju City. Because of the presence of the system, he had never regarded other foster shops as competitors. Speaking of which, it seemed he had acquired another skill after this bathing and nurturing session. Warm glow, not teachable. This is a renowned skill from the bright group species. Simply put, it allows the pet beast to glow and provide a certain level of warmth, just like a portable warm light. Although this light attribute skill couldn't be taught to Xian and Star, now that the recycling function is here, there are other ways to handle it. A moment later, seeing the number of skill fragments remaining on the recycling interface increase from 15 to 16, Su Ran nodded in satisfaction. Since no other customers had come in, Su Ran, who was back at the counter, wasn't too busy. Out of boredom, he opened the recycling interface and began a search for one-star skills that could fuse with blood fury and self-healing power. This skill looks pretty good. Checking the exchange list, a skill named Frenzy, with a 21.4% fusion success rate with blood fury, caught Su Ran's attention. Chapter 119-94, Time for Pranks. However, thinking that he only had one skill fusion stone left, and the chances of success were low, Su Ran's excitement quickly cooled down. I'll keep that in mind but might swap it later when I have more skill fusion stones. It was not long before the skill with the best chances of fusion with the self-healing power was found out to be a skill called Recovery. The fusion success rate of these two skills was even higher than that of the Blood Fury plus Frenzy, reaching 27.9%. I'll remember this one too. Just as Su Ran was preparing to go through the exchange list, looking for skills compatible for the next 3-star skill, new customers arrived. "Boss, I'm back after a few days." Su Xiaoxiao's voice was as cheerful as ever, and as soon as her words fell, she already arrived in front of Su Ran, holding her flame fox. "Are you here for washing and grooming?" Su Ran asked with a smile. "I do need grooming, but not today." Su Xiaoxiao brushed the flame fox's head, speaking softly. "Consider this as an appointment. I'll bring flame fox for grooming the day after tomorrow. Because you haven't been opening the shop as usual these days, I'm afraid you might also be busy when the time comes." "You don't have to worry too much about that." Su Ran shook his head and explained, "We've been closed recently because of the shop's expansion and business upgrade. We will return to regular service hours moving forward. After all, we can't have system upgrades every day." "Well, that's reassuring." Su Xiaoxiao sighed with relief. "May I ask, why are you grooming day after tomorrow?" He then casually gave the flame fox a system identification. "It's still pretty clean, but it's time for grooming." "Because the day after tomorrow is the Teen Beast Master Pet Beauty Contest in Qingju City," Su Xiaoxiao explained cheerily. "This competition is for beast masters under 20 years old. Based on the pet's appearance, disposition, and performance, it determines a winner. If you do well in the competition, you might even earn extra points for the college entrance exam." When she said this, there was a glimmer of longing in Su Xiaoxiao's eyes. As a freshman, if she could earn extra points for the college entrance exam, it's like being one step ahead of her peers. "So there's such a competition." Su Ran nodded, now understanding Su Xiaoxiao's insistence on grooming the day after tomorrow. "It's too bad that the entry requirement for the Pet Beast Beauty Contest is under 20 years old, which he has already surpassed. Otherwise, if they took Xian and Star to participate, the advertising effect might be even greater than the challenge match. After all, this is a beauty contest. The effects of the grooming are immediately noticeable. Don't worry, I'll reserve time for you the day after tomorrow. Su Ran gave a definite answer and then casually asked, are any of your other classmates participating? Do we need to reserve time in advance? She has been a regular customer after all. It's only right to take care of her. But of course, there's no way there will be a discount. They're not participating. Su Xiaoxiao shook her head. The competition's participation is selected within the school. Back then, I got this opportunity because of your grooming, boss Su. A UA didn't get it. Although Nzun got the chance to participate later through other means, she gave up. Su Xiaoxiao paused. When Gu Ling transferred schools, the selection was already over, and she doesn't seem to be interested. All right, Su Ran nodded slightly, still regretting that he couldn't advertise. Don't worry, boss Su. It seemed like Su Xiaoxiao guessed something from Su Ran's regretful expression, and she smiled. If Flame Fox does well, I will definitely help promote your shop. I'll let the audience know he was groomed at the Starfair foster care shop. According to the teacher's assessment of her, as long as her Flame Fox is groomed like before, it will be a strong contender for the top 3 in this beauty contest. If they achieve this, a part of it should be attributed to Boss Su, and it's only right to help him advertise. A boss who seems to love advertising. He should be happy, right? Su Ran lifted his head. There's more appreciation in his eyes looking at Su Xiaoxiao. She is indeed teachable. That being the case, he should make his appreciation known. Your grooming the day after tomorrow is free. Yay, Su Xiaoxiao was so happy she almost cried. Finally, she's got some benefit from the boss. She must show off to her sisters when she goes back. Oh yes. Having arranged the grooming, a weight was lifted off her mind, and Su Xiaoxiao suddenly reacted. Boss Su, did your shop upgrade its services in these past few days? She turned to look at the price sign without hesitation. When she saw the grooming price for the super large pet beasts, Su Xiaoxiao couldn't help but exclaim. It's so expensive. Fortunately, Flame Fox is a small pet beast. Even if she improves the growth stage in the future, it won't grow too large. From this perspective, she really saved some money. Then she saw the prices for the general stage pet beast and the king stage pet beast's fosterage, and Su Xiaoxiao couldn't help but gasp. It turns out the payment is made in points. These things are not easy to get. Nobody is willing to sell them for money. Her parents are also beast masters, and they saved a few over the years, but so far, Su Xiaoxiao hasn't earned any beast master points herself. However, thinking that these 2 levels are far from her current capabilities, Su Xiaoxiao felt she don't have to worry too much about the problem. If she ever attained such strength, she would undoubtedly be able to earn plenty of points. Go for it, Su Xiaoxiao. After cheering herself on, Su Xiaoxiao's gaze fell on the last row of the price menu. Sparring. Does the shop offer sparring services now? There was a hint of surprise on Su Xiaoxiao's face. In other foster shops, sparring was an added service to fosterage. That is to say, without foster care, they could not provide sparring services alone. But according to Boss Su's price list, it appeared that the 2 services were given equal weight. Boss, can we spar without necessarily fostering? Su Xiaoxiao asked. Yes, you can spar directly, Su Ran nodded. Then I will have the Flame Fox train for an hour, Su Xiaoxiao spontaneously suggested, hardly hesitating. A transcendent stage pet beast only costs $666 per hour. Although it's not cheap, it is not unaffordable either. No problem, Su Ran stood up and headed towards the back door. Follow me. Oh, not in the shop. Curious, Su Xiaoxiao followed, soon realizing something. That's right, the store was too small to have space for foster care and training, so the boss must have set these services up. In the basement. Seeing the spacious underground passage, Su Xiaoxiao's mouth dropped open in surprise. It's pretty big down there, brace yourself, Su Ran said, seeing Su Xiaoxiao's astonishment. Is she surprised? The real show is yet to come. Wow, moments later, Su Xiaoxiao continually gasped in amazement as they entered the foster area. She never calmed while passing through numerous areas belonging to different beast masters. Hasn't she seen the pig run even if she hasn't eaten pork? Even though Su Xiaoxiao never fostered her Flame Fox, she has a good understanding of foster care. Such luxurious foster conditions are impossible to find anywhere else. Su Xiaoxiao glanced at a dog rolling on a snow hill not far away. That was the frost dust wolf of the White Wolf girl, right? I heard there was a bet between the 2 in the semifinals. Seems like the former kept to her word and fostered it here. We are here. The voice of Su Ran brought Su Xiaoxiao back from her curious observation. Seeing the light film-covered tunnel ahead, a realization hit her. Apparently, the end of this tunnel is the training area. They both pass through the light film, and as Su Ran pressed the fire attribute button, there's a moment of weightlessness in the elevator. Next, the scenery around them changed abruptly. It was a volcano spewing lava. Feeling the heat coming towards her, Su Xiaoxiao's mouth opened wide. Is this the training area? What skills does the Flame Fox need to train? Do you have a training target? Su Ran casually asked. Su Xiaoxiao was still coming back to her senses, so Su Ran asked again. Let me think. Su Xiaoxiao glanced at the Flame Fox. On a whim, she hadn't thought this through, but it didn't take her long to come up with something. Let's train Flame Dance for an hour. This skill is Flame Fox's highest DPS skill, also displayed at the day after tomorrow's Pet Beast Beauty Contest. If she can improve it through training, it would be more helpful for the competition. Okay, Su Ran nodded slightly. Next, it was time for some pranks. Chapter 120-95 Continue the music, continue the dance. To improve the efficiency of this accompanying training session, the system will grant the host relevant knowledge from the Flame Dance Skill Training Guide. Hold on. Coolly accepting the knowledge transfusion from the system, Su Ran turned and walked toward the training equipment warehouse on the side. Soon, Su Ran returned with a pair of small red dancing shoes. Watching Su Ran put these red dancing shoes on Flame Fox's hind feet, Su Xiaoxiao's face wore an expression of confusion. What? These are essential training equipment. Su Ran explained. Next, let Flame Fox wear them, walk upright, and then dance to the music. The more Su Xiaoxiao listened, the more abstract and more confused she became. What bizarre training method was this? Why couldn't she understand it? Companion training in other foster shops wasn't like this, right? So, Boss Su, could you first explain the principle of this training method? Su Xiaoxiao couldn't help but ask. No problem. Su Ran nodded. For the flame dance skill, the Flame Fox needs to use its front paws to perform the casting action right. That's right, Su Xiaoxiao agreed. As the beast master of Flame Fox, she naturally knew about such skill characteristics. Because it has this casting action, the cast of Flame Dance has a certain preparation time, and it cannot be cast instantly. So, we need to find a way to correct this so that Flame Fox can still cast the skill without this action. Boss, I understand what you're saying, but what does this have to do with little Flame wearing red dancing shoes and dancing? Su Xiaoxiao pointed out the crux of the problem. There is absolutely a connection. Su Ran's expression was very serious. In reality, Flame Dance is a skill which controls the explosive power of the fire attribute after it leaves the body. These shoes can enhance Flame Fox's connection with the surrounding fire attribute. Even without using its front paws for casting, it can smoothly cast Flame Dance. Let it get accustomed to this feeling, and the dependence on the casting action will reduce. Seeing that Su Xiaoxiao still wanted to ask something, Su Ran decisively turned on the speaker. Anyway, let's start dancing. A fast-paced song began to play from the speakers, forming a stark contrast with the nearby volcano spitting out lava. Looking at Su Ran, who had started to twist his body, Su Xiaoxiao felt somewhat helpless but gave Flame Fox a look to follow along. Although it sounded unreliable, she decided to trust Boss Su for now. Mutilda. Flame Fox reluctantly watched Su Ran's movements, but as it watched, these moves, which were extremely addictive, kept emerging in its mind. Unconsciously, it raised its front paws, and with the help of the red dancing shoes, it maintained an upright stance. A flash of red light blinked over the dancing shoes, while the surrounding fire attribute seemed to be stirred and quickly became tumultuous. Dance. With Flame Fox raising its front paws to its chest, and its hind legs stomping to the rhythm of the music, a pillar of fire emerged when it completed a short dance sequence. Flame Dance. This was Flame Dance being unconsciously released in sync with the rhythm through dance. Is it really possible? Looking at the fire dance, which was no less powerful than a full-force attack by Flame Fox, Su Xiaoxiao, who stood to the side, stood dumbfounded. Just as she was astonished, Flame Fox had started its second segment of dance. It stood on one hind leg, the other hind leg lifted sideways, while its front paws waved vigorously with the momentum. With its fluffy body and enchanting eyes, this dance was quite fascinating. However, the effect was remarkably significant. As the second segment of the dance completed, Flame Fox's body burst out with a series of high-rising flames. Suzayaxel didn't know what to say. Looking at the initially unwilling Flame Fox, but after dancing for a while thoroughly enjoying itself, every bit of its fur radiating happiness, she felt an impulse to join in. Suzayaxel, calm down, Boss Su is still here, how embarrassing. Alright, it seems that Flame Fox has learned it. Su Ran stopped. You can watch it practice. Seeing Su Ran about to leave, Suzayaxel blinked. Wait, isn't this supposed to be an accompanying training service? Shouldn't an accompanying training service involve the staff of the foster shop training with the pet beast? The training had just begun. Why was Boss Su leaving now? Yes, accompanying training. Su Ran nodded seriously. It is to guide the beast master on how to accompany the pet beast during training. What? Is accompanying training explained like this? Watching Su Ran disappear in the elevator, Suzayaxel felt lost for a moment. But soon, the fast pace of the music brought her back to her senses. As she looked at the Flame Fox completely immersed in the captivating dance and dancing more gleefully, Suzayaxel looked very conflicted. A few minutes later, she walked step by step toward Flame Fox and started to clumsily follow Flame Fox's dance movements at the foot of the volcano. Wind. You're dancing wrong. It should be like this. Lift your hand high, kick up your leg. Flame Fox looked at its beast master with disdain and seriously corrected her wrong movements. Guess which segment of the dance it was. The original video will be shown in the bonus chapter at the end of this one. Inside Dawn Foster's store, Fang Liming sat behind the counter, propping his cheek with one hand and petting the once again languid bright group on the counter next to him, gazing outside the shop door, his eyes somewhat distant.